Okay. I've had everything pretty much set up for a little while. I do like to test to make sure the mod bot's working, but we're going to have to jump right in as we did have a tornado warning here just a minute or two ago. Confirmed funnel cloud by storm spotters. This is in central Nebraska near Grand Isle. And how's it going, crews? Hope you're doing well. Let's see, it looks like they just updated it. Radar indicated tornado warning there in Nebraska. But let's take a look at that one first. See what's up with this storm. Just glancing at it, it looks like there might be some larger hail in there too. But let's take a look at that as well. Actually not too bad right now. Going over to the velocity, there's your area of rotation. Winds going towards the radar in the green and away from the radar in the red, the red. I'm changing. I was about to say blue, because I'm changing the colors of the drawing tool while I'm also talking about colors. All right. Let's not get too confused right now. Cool. There is your area of rotation. Hey, Stones, how's it going this evening? Welcome, welcome, everybody. It's a little late getting on. I was planning on going live around 6, and then just dinner plans got in the way. And my wife wasn't feeling the best, so I had to cook dinner, which I don't mind doing. I was just planning on getting on here a little bit sooner. So sorry for the delays. We still have a lot of action to cover. There's been storms for a good part of the evening now, but more storms expected. And we have camera coverage all over to see what's going on tonight. Tornado possible tag. All right, since we caught that tornado warning, let's go east to west. Take a look at these storms. Tornado possible tag. Yeah, there is rotation there near Grand Marsh and eastern Minnesota or Wisconsin. Sorry, this is headed towards Lawrence and Harrisville, Oxford, and areas like Monticello in Marquette County. That'll also cross I-39. Interesting little warning. There may be different offices here. La Crosse, and I'm guessing Milwaukee. Yeah, Milwaukee. I could tell there's different offices because the one warning is kind of weirdly shaped compared to where the circulation is. So the next office is warning a much wider area. But I don't expect this storm, at least the tornadic part, to get down towards Endeavor or even really south of Oxford. Yeah, at its current pace, it's basically tracking almost due east. That's going to put it on Wisconsin Highway Route E. Yeah, Route E. Wisconsin, if you've been on our streams long enough, is one of those states that also has numbered state highways, but then also rural state highways also have like a letter system as well. Hey, Redbird, how's it going? Sure, Redbird. We'll just go with the easy answer, sure. I have some slightly different philosophies, but I wouldn't mind having his audience numbers. So, and if I ever do get audience numbers like that, I do appreciate that that Ryan does have that the disaster response charity and stuff, but that takes like that takes a whole team. That's going to take time. Redbird may just be sucking up in case I get to that level and I need a developer. But either way, I appreciate it, Redbird. Hey, ST Nguyen, how's it going tonight? It does appear like Bobby is on a crash course with mainland China. If you haven't already, check out my weather brief from earlier today. It's a bit long because we included information about Bobby. And yeah, so it's a little bit long, but there are timestamps. I generally try and do timestamps. I know that technically, if you want people to get longer view times and stuff, you shouldn't really do the timestamps, but I find it valuable in case my viewers want to skip around a little bit. So yeah, go check that out. There should be timestamps for Bobby. Hey, Jesse, how's it going tonight? I think, Stones, you'll be okay. I can look at that here in a few minutes. We'll look at the model data but shouldn't be as tornadic down there near Kansas City overnight. This is a big, messy cluster of storms now into northern parts of Iowa. And right now, not severe, but there are a ton of flash flood warnings in this place. Mason City, Manly, Osage, Charles City, back up towards Albert Lee. I don't know what happened. I'm going to have to do some investigating. I've been trying to get the Albert Lee camera to play. What is that? That almost looks like a tornado. I don't know what it is. It's frozen on I-35. I'm going to have to look up and see if there's any tornado reports. Actually, let's just do that right now. To me, it looks like a tornado. I'm not ready to call it that. This was when storms moved through Albert Lee a little bit ago. It just, I don't know, it just visually looks a little, and the camera's just completely frozen there. But yeah, I'll have to do some digging and find out. That was like south of Albert Lee on 35. I don't know. It could be just my eyes playing tricks, and it is a very narrow field of vision. But I have no idea what that was earlier.
Warning has been issued.
So I don't want to put out false information, but we've seen tornadoes on cameras that have looked less like a tornado than that. But yeah, I don't know what that is. That's interesting from earlier with that cluster of storms. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be back to southern Illinois, especially it looks like roughly that Springfield area, especially I think I-70 and south. We should be back into southern Illinois tomorrow. Yeah, that's the plan there, Tall Paul. It's important to carve out your own niche and not just copy others, which unfortunately a lot of people on YouTube do. Not just on weather, but a lot of pick any genre on YouTube, and there's usually a couple of the bigger I was gonna say streamers, but streamers work too, but a couple of the bigger channels, and a lot of times a lot of the other channels somewhat copy them. We're trying to do things a little bit different here on WeatherCast Live with I'm very conscious of our thumbnails, especially. A lot of the other weather streamers' thumbnails look very similar, and I try to prevent clickbait thumbnails. Ours are based on forecasting and also the SPC versus a lot that just say like, oh, wow. And they all pretty much look the same. A little bit of broad rotation. That storm near Stromsburg. We're kind of working down the line. There's been a few less severe storms lately in eastern Nebraska. They did drop the overall severe thunderstorm warning for this storm. But this storm still continues to show some rotation in there just near Aurora. And then Hampton, and it may scoot over towards the Bradshaw area, paralleling Highway 34. It's only moving east at 15, so you're going to be in that warning polygon for a few more minutes. That's going to be east central Hampton County in central Nebraska. That's been our first tornado warning since I've been kind of in monitoring mode / chef mode tonight. There's a couple other cells that are interesting in this little area here, so there may be a little bit of a favorable shear zone in here that's getting a little extra spin to those storms, because generally from the best tornado chance is actually up here into eastern portions of Iowa and also across Wisconsin. Those should be backing down as we get into the evening. That was more of a late afternoon, early evening setup. So more isolated tornado risks out here. We've had a couple larger storms in Colorado already. 76 mile-an-hour winds reported at 5:35 in Weld County. And as kind of typical this time of year, we've had storms go up on the Front Range, the adjacent high plains, and then they propagate to the east in clusters. You can see this Boeing segment here. It looks like one cluster kind of up in here, and then they're trying to connect a little bit. So we'll see if we get a little more organized system that comes out of this. And models don't do a great job at showing this ahead of time. So we just kind of know a general area where we may get one or more clusters of storms, and we kind of have to see basically live how they develop. Other storms have gone up into eastern portions of Wyoming. We did have a tornado warning, it looks like, while I was playing Chef a little bit ago, near Laramie. So those storms may have been a little bit stronger just a little while ago, but they're in a little bit of a poor radar coverage area. Still a little bit of spin, it looks like, in that one storm. Yeah, there's still a couple spins in there. Nothing really tornadic, but just we'll keep an eye on it. We've had almost 2 inches of rain in the Cheyenne area. Flash flooding indicated there. Hey, Logan, how's it going today? AZU, welcome, welcome. Stones. Arizona's had a couple storms, I think, earlier today. Yeah, we have still storms out in Arizona. I haven't seen too many severe warnings out of these, but there is a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5, still in portions of South Arizona, the Tucson area up to Globe, and then down towards the Mexican border. So it looks like some storms firing there, basically south of Tucson, and then also up in the mountains north of Tucson, up along Highway 77. We'll see if those are drifting around, so they may drift out of the mountains. We'll see if they try that. But yeah, isolated strong storms, mostly downbursts, are going to be a factor there. Looks like storms are staying away from the Phoenix metro, and then a few more isolated storms up into northeastern portions of Arizona. We haven't done a lot of Arizona coverage just because storms are a little bit more sporadic out there and a little less concentrated severe weather. But if we do, we will certainly cover it. Let's see, there's been also other clusters of storms in this marginal risk area out in the Carolinas and in Southern Virginia. There's still a couple ongoing severe storms there around areas northeast of Raleigh and then down along the coast. This is north of Wilmington, a couple clusters of storms there. As I back out, yeah, I'll try. If we get any severe warnings to pop off tonight, we'll jump over there too. Because you can always get this time of year some isolated damaging winds as well as sometimes some large hail. Let's see. This is our main risk area, all the way back into the Intermountain West. You can see the level 2 slight risk. That includes everything from eastern Wyoming back down through eastern Colorado, and then much of north and western Kansas, and then all the way up across into the western Great Lakes into Wisconsin. Basically where we have most of our storms right now. And then this area is, this is one of the reasons why I was a little bit late getting on tonight. This area hasn't actually fired yet. We're kind of waiting to see what comes out of Colorado, but we do have an enhanced risk. Yeah, and it's mostly a wind-driven enhanced risk. I don't think much has changed since earlier this afternoon. Still a small tornado risk. In fact, I think they've shrunk that up a little bit. And then, yeah, our wind risk has basically stayed the same. You see the conditional intensity guidance hatching there. So we could get some gusts in that intensity area, that hatched area. In the hurricane force gusts, 74, 76 miles an hour, that sort of range. Maybe even a gust isolated up into the 80s. But then the red area, that's your higher percentages of the wind risk. So especially in there where they overlap, that's where we have the overall enhanced risk there. So that's what that enhanced risk is for. And then hail, I don't believe, has also changed much. There's only some isolated hail chances today. Today is not a very big hail day. We kind of have lee side troughing, and yeah, clusters of storms just go up on the front range in Colorado and Wyoming, and even down into New Mexico and up into Montana. And then we also have a little bit of a short wave that's kind of working through the Great Lakes, and then there's a frontal boundary kind of draped along there. It's not super crazy cold air aloft up here. It's not a super deep short. It's not a deep short wave, or definitely it's not a deeper long wave. So there's not a huge clash of air masses. The frontal boundary is just kind of acting as a convergence point between some slightly cooler air and also some warmer air. A lot of times in the spring, we get more large hail because there's just more cold air aloft. But anyway, we'll see if we get any isolated large hail tonight. All right, let's go back into this storm. It's they re-upped that warning. I think actually it expires in another 2 minutes. They trimmed it quite significantly. It was much stronger and more organized west of Aurora. This is in central Nebraska. That has continued to work across the Aurora area and really just kind of fall apart. So that mesocyclone looks like it's collapsed over the Aurora area. And that makes sense. It looks like we've had, it looks like a storm merger there. And we've seen this on other streams. Sometimes we have constructive storm mergers that help out. Those tend to be ones that nudge the rear flank a little bit. If they come right into the mesocyclone and just kind of slam into that side of the storm, it generally tends to be more of a destructive merger, at least for a little while. We'll see if it kind of reorganizes. But yeah, that's going to basically take the mesocyclone and the inflow, where it's getting warm and moist inflow, and just slam a bunch of rain-cooled air up in there. Storms don't like that very much. Let's see, Minnesota. I think Minnesota's almost out of the woods, actually. Yeah, pretty much Minnesota. You're going to be, they've actually trimmed those warnings up. So really, severe storms limited across Minnesota. The only thing I'll say is Canada does a little bit better job. In Canada, the Environment Canada lists flash flooding as a severe risk. We kind of separate it out a little bit, but it is definitely a severe event. So it can be as impactful or more impactful than damaging winds, tornadoes, and flooding and heat actually kill more people than the other severe criteria anyway. But other than flash flooding in southeast portions of Minnesota, it looks like you're going to be clear the rest of the evening. Hey, Anna, how's it going tonight? We'll see. There is a chance that Oklahoma gets in on some of this. Some of those storms that are working out of the Front Range. It's going to be really kind of the panhandle of Oklahoma, out towards Beaver County, and then Guyman, Boise City, those areas. May get some feistier storms. Looks like there are a couple storms already working into those areas, but not severe at the moment. Otherwise, they should weaken as they push into western Oklahoma. OKC looks pretty good the rest of the night. There's a chance you get an isolated storm, but no severe risk outlined for the OKC area. Let me check and make sure they didn't adjust things for tomorrow, though. Yeah, tomorrow pushes a little bit more severe risk into Oklahoma, so keep an eye on that. Still mostly in the panhandle, but down to areas like Woodward and Alva, Oklahoma. And then the level 1 risk does push down to about I-40, so a little bit more chance of severe weather tomorrow in Oklahoma. And also potentially also on Friday. Although I think Friday's forecast should change a little bit. Since we've had a lot of questions about some of those things, I do want to jump in. I haven't looked at model data in the last couple hours. Admittedly, I've been kind of off the camera and out of the weather studio here. So I actually want to get caught up myself. And yeah, we should have 00Z just coming out. So our latest model run for the HRRR just ran. So let's take a look at this and see what, if anything different happens. And since we do have some people watching from Arizona, kind of broaden it out a little bit, we'll take a look at more of the entire US here for the next little bit. But yeah, putting this into motion, you can see those clusters of storms that are in Wyoming and Colorado. They push out into the high plains. That's where our enhanced risk is. So expecting some more wind reports out of this area. And depending on how organized these clusters get, we could get some serious winds out of these clusters. If I had to put my guess on it, it'd be more like the southern cluster. That appears to be the one that the HRRR is favoring as well. This cluster just looks a little bit messier, and we don't see that kind of backwards C bow shape to it. It also does take a couple of stronger storms into the panhandle of Oklahoma, so we will keep an eye on that. You can see as we get into the later evening, things should start to wind down there without daytime heating across Arizona. And yeah, the model kind of fizzles most of those storms fairly quickly. But storms will go into the overnight hours, potentially pushing into northern Kansas as one or more clusters of storms, so we may have to deal with some more severe activity there. Should start to see things wind down across portions of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, at least as far as severe weather. With some training complex of the storms, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more flash flood warnings across some of those areas, and may even get a couple batches of feistier storms into western Michigan into the overnight hour. It's going to be in that overnight hour. This is probably going to be a flood risk if it verifies like the HRRR is saying. It looks like just based on just looking at things, we have a big cluster of storms kind of working into some really rich moisture over the lower Missouri Valley. That's going to really add those rainfall totals up. So keep an eye on that. Severe risk should diminish overnight. This is around 3 a.m. this look, but that's going to be a lot of heavy rainfall along the I-70 corridor. Yeah, Oklahoma is a very interesting state. A lot of people, I think, kind of consider it flyover territory. But if you have a chance to visit Oklahoma, it is a very interesting state. There's plains on kind of the northern side. These are kind of your typical what you see like on Twister movie and stuff. Like it's the kind of like those areas. And then you have a couple big cities like Tulsa and Oklahoma City. You have more like pretty woodsy mountains in the east. Areas around McAllister down towards Idabel. McCurtain County, Oklahoma is the only county, I think officially in Oklahoma, that has alligators that are natural. They come up the Red River from the Arklatex and stuff. There's also like the McCurtain County McCurtain palm tree. So it's actually a little bit more subtropical down in this area. And then it's like a lot more arid and higher terrain out in the west. There's the Wichita Mountains west of Lawton. It's a really interesting state, and it's not the largest state. If you plan a road trip, you can get a lot done. There's a couple like salt lakes, the Salt Plains Wildlife Refuge, the Great Salt Lake out here at Nescatunga, and then there's obviously Aunt Meg over there in Wakita, and the Twister Museum. So there's all kinds of interesting things in Oklahoma. Yeah, Arizona's right. Oh, sorry, Anna. I guess if you maybe lived there all your life, I think that's common for a lot of people. Like if you live somewhere all your life, you may want to get out and explore a little bit. I think that's a natural feeling. All right, let's go back here. They've swapped the tornado warning out with a severe thunderstorm warning, and they've also expanded that warning. And actually now there is a little bit of a new area of rotation. It looks like it's trying to get going in here. So we may get another tornado warning if that part of the storm can kind of organize again. Right now, just keep an eye on it. Aurora, Henderson, Bradshaw, Hampton, and Lushton. And then, let's see. Yeah, Omaha, there are storms west and north of Omaha. We'll keep an eye on you guys concerning near Omaha. Nothing severe at the moment, but let's go in a little bit closer. Couple outflow boundaries looks like about to surge through. Yeah, these storms are upscaling just a little bit to the north and west of the Omaha area. So we'll keep an eye on you guys. One stronger storm there, a little reflectivity picking up there. May have some small hail in it. And then we'll keep an eye on this storm near Erling. A little bit of sheared cell as well. So yeah, nothing right now in Omaha, but you are under that severe weather watch. And then let's go back up here, Monticello area. They've dropped that tornado possible tag. Yeah, it looks like that area has also kind of collapsed. That area of rotation we were looking at a little bit ago to the west of Harrisville. So yeah, better situation there. A little bit of rotation now on this new cell that's popped up south of Endeavor. Yeah, there's a new cell that's popped up there headed towards Bellefontaine. We'll keep an eye on that storm. Overall, they're warning this whole line segment cluster for, thank you, Empty Glass. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Why can't I like that? There you go. Yeah, don't be scared of tornadoes. You just have to kind of be prepared. Make sure you have a tornado safety action plan. Make sure you know where your safe spot is. If you have a basement, a storm shelter, those are your better options. Some communities have community storm shelters. That's a really good option. But if you don't have a basement, just make sure you know where your smallest, lowest level is and that interior room. Slightly creepy cruise, but we'll take it. We'll take viewers wherever you're watching from. Looks like some other storms also just outside of Milwaukee. Those kind of have grazed the northern portions of Milwaukee. But yeah, these may be some of those storms that get over into western Michigan. We'll keep an eye on later. Muskegon, Grand Rapids, Big Rapids, and those areas. I saw a comment, it was Jesse there, Minnesota next week. Yes and no. Minnesota's kind of right on the edge of where this heat dome is going to develop. It looks like, according to the model data that I saw earlier today, and you can go watch our forecast video at another point, but certainly the northern plains really get cooking next week with another heat dome. There's some question marks on the models on how far that gets towards the east, but certainly later, mid to late next week, we may have to deal with some more potentially close to triple-digit temperatures in the Corn Belt. Some of the other models kind of pull that heat dome back and pull it back towards the Four Corners again, so a little bit of model disagreement, but we'll get better ideas. The areas then, like Wyoming, Colorado, up into the high plains, this area looks like almost a lock for a heat dome. Yeah, some of the eastern extent is a little bit of a question mark. Yeah, I finally got it all fixed up. It took a couple days, the last couple days, but finally working. Although the monetization is nice to have, and certainly will help the channel going forward, but not everything is about the money either. It's really about helping people and making sure we're providing a service. Now, just like any nonprofit will tell you, it takes money to run even those businesses. So, and nonprofits are a business, but so the money is appreciated. But yeah, it's not about a get-rich-quick scheme. Certainly, there's better ways to do that than being on YouTube. Let's see. Crook County also has a severe thunderstorm warning. This is an area that we might see some larger hail. Yeah, and already being warned for $half size hail. That's in far northeastern portions of Wyoming. This is an area that I think I flagged earlier on the forecast video for a little bit larger hail potentially across the higher plains. Let's go back into eastern Colorado and take a look at this storm again. It's near Akron and Otis, approaching areas around Yuma, north of I-70. So that's a good sign, at least right now, for travel. It's basically paralleling US 34, Yuma over towards Eakley. Does have a tornado possible tag on it. Moving east only at 15 miles an hour. Yeah, there's been a couple transient areas of rotation. None have really latched on, but we'll keep an eye on that one. It's really pushing the edge of radar coverage, but we'll keep an eye on there. And then, just as we left that area, the Omaha area did get a couple different warnings. The one storm that we flagged there with some larger hail in it, quarter-size hail near Modal, Logan, and Missouri Valley, and then back into the Nebraska side of things around Fremont, over towards Kennard and Valley, Nebraska on the northwest sides of the Omaha Metro. Severe thunderstorm there. You can see the gusty winds pretty close to the radar site too. Some 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts crossing at US 30. Thanks, Cruz. Thanks. I appreciate you, Cruz. Yeah, about to come into the Fremont area, Fremont Lake Estates, and then all the way into downtown Fremont. That's going to kind of parallel the 77 towards the Valley area, Waterloo, Bennington, Washington, some of those areas on the northwest sides of Omaha. And then checking out Des Moines. Des Moines right now, less of a severe threat, but looks like that outflow boundary is pushing through the Des Moines area now. Storms back to the west of Des Moines along I-80. It's going to get wet and probably a little bit loud there with some thunder and lightning, but those storms are generally on the downtrend out towards Guthrie Center, Audubon, Coon Rapids, Perry, and up towards Huxley. I feel like we haven't covered Des Moines as much as like last year, maybe. Certainly in 24, we were in Iowa, I think, almost every broadcast at some point. Oh, gee. That sounds like it might be a little of addiction. The storm is generally, it looks like, on a little bit of a weakening trend. That storm to the south is still, I think, the stronger storm in this cluster at the moment. Yeah, I know. Heads up there, Portage. Not in the severe warning, but Portage, those are pretty nasty storms approaching you guys. We, I believe, have cameras over that way. Let me see if I can get a camera in that area. Portage. All right, there's the Portage area. This is along I-90, just to the west of Portage. So keeping an eye on those storms. There's already lightning popping up around those areas. So if you're out on the lake, there's Lake Wisconsin right in here. Definitely keep an eye to the sky. It's about to get nasty there as well. So definitely take your boating safety precautions there with lightning closing in. And then storms are kind of back building a little bit right on the lake shore. More storms going up there on an outflow boundary near West Bend, up towards Sheboygan, Wisconsin. We'll see if more of this may be working into the Milwaukee area later this evening. And then we'll see if anything kind of intensifies as it pushes towards Milwaukee later tonight. Yeah, and remember, just and for anyone crews too, like I've always talked about it, almost on most streams I talk about it, but liking and subscribing is a free way to help out the channel too. So if you don't have the cash to drop a cup of coffee in, that's not a problem. Liking and subscribing actually does a pretty good job of helping the channel. It gets the algorithm to push this out to more people, not just us, but your favorite YouTubers. Liking and subscribing can sometimes be as big of a help almost as just the super chats and stuff. So just remember that you don't have to break your own bank account just to help out. Hey Misty, how's it going tonight? I think you've been on our chat before, Misty, right? The last couple times. I love that our awesome weather community is growing. We have over 80 people watching right now, so that's awesome. We've had a ton of new followers through June and into early July. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. We have a bunch of people that have joined our amazing weather community. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Missouri got hit really hard on the 4th of July, like the earlier in the daytime. I think we saw like 50,000 people were without power at one point. Misty, did you lose power or did you just find damage? Okay, well, that's good. I mean, that's personally, that's good for you. That, yeah, I think we had even some viewers, some of our regular viewers from Eastern Missouri, lost power that day. So yeah, it was quite a rough day for Missouri there. Check our friends in Arizona. Yeah, those bigger storms seem to be staying towards the south. They're kind of drifting around, and actually, a lot of those storms are drifting to the southwest. So We'll see about the Tucson area. Some of the other storms look like they're raining themselves out over the higher terrain. Some of those I still could drift into the valley, so keep an eye on the Tucson area. Oh wow. Yeah, that's going to do some damage. That's going to take down trees, power lines, all that. I did see that. Yeah, 105. I think they had to confirm it after. I don't think we saw that on the stream that day. A couple other storms also in the south, Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, down towards Rolling Fork in Mississippi. Storms are starting to fade into the south today. There's also a cluster of storms over the Nashville area. That's working east of Nashville, but still a couple feistier storms there. And also flash flood warnings through the Nashville area around Mount Juliet and then down towards Smyrna. This is all kind of around the airport too, so that may cause some airport travel delays. But yeah, it looks like your evening will be slightly better in the Nashville area. There is the possibility of more flash flooding across the Ohio Valley into the Tennessee Valley. You can see they've issued these, I think, mid-afternoon, like 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon. They issued flood watches with more rounds of heavy rain and storms expected over the next few days. Yeah, these are issued from Thursday afternoon through Saturday night. So that boundary that's causing severe weather today is going to continue pushing to the south and just kind of stall from the southern plains across to the mid-south, and just rounds of storms tomorrow, Friday, potentially into Saturday, with some severe chances as well. Oh, nice. That's pretty awesome, Cruz. I mean, you've been putting in hard work, so take the break when you get a chance. Couple severe storms also still there in between Greensboro and Chapel Hill up towards Yanceyville. Looks like storms are settling down very quickly. We've had a couple severe storms there north and east of Raleigh, and then also north of Wilmington. But you can see just really since we started the stream, those storms are really losing their punch across eastern portions of North Carolina. You don't have to dox yourself, Cruz. I think you mentioned on a stream the other night or last week. Were you going to the beach or something? Or I forget what type of vacation you were going on, but little pocket of gustier winds near Morse Bluff as well. That's just outside of this warning polygon, but there is a little bit of a surge of wind also in that cell. So that cell doesn't look that impressive. It may be maybe a little bit of a downburst there, surging out towards the radar site. Otherwise, those storms are approaching the Omaha area. They're through Fremont and then approaching Arlington. They're through Nickerson and then riding down 77 towards the Valley, Nebraska area. It's right at the radar site too. Looks like the wind profiles come down just a touch on those. Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll be fun. That's a good break. Ooh, 116 in Arizona. Yeah, that's a little warm. Taking a look at our camera there out of the Portage area. Definitely got dark. I don't see a lot of rain, at least falling on that camera, but looks like it's about to. This storm has still a little bit of a broad area circulation in it between Otis and Yuma. Tornado possible tag continues. Gusty winds up to 60 miles an hour and some small hail, particularly a couple of these areas in the purple. Yeah, there's a little bit of a hail core right in there. That shows up on the differential as some larger hail. It should also show up in correlation coefficient. Yeah, it kind of does. And there may be another little pocket of some hail up in this area just east of 61. So generally head towards the Yuma area. That's probably the one of the stronger portions of this storm with the wind and the hail. Let's track this little. That's also generally headed towards Ray, Colorado. It's not moving very fast, though. It's moving like 15. So Yuma still about like 20 minutes or so. Yeah, still about
A
20
new
minutes to the
flash
Yuma
flood
area.
warning has been issued.
Smith and Wilson counties in Tennessee. New flash flood warnings there. Cruise. I guess, yeah. That I mean it's pretty that's pretty humid. Or pretty hot. I was gonna say the humidity is a little bit lower out there, but actually right now with the monsoon moisture, it actually might be pretty humid there too. This is outflow dominant, so that is productive if you're out there west of Lincoln. Still has a severe thunderstorm warning there. Aurora down to Henderson. Looks like we've lost most of that area of rotation. So, and being outflow dominant should be basically limiting those tornado chances in this cluster of storms. So from Doniphan to Grand Isle, Chapman, Aurora, Henderson, York, Utica, Gresham, and over towards Dwight, Nebraska. Strong storms, some isolated pockets there that are severe, but at least the tornado chances should be minimal while those stay outflow driven. There's the rain starting to get on that camera at Portage. Pop back up there. That's near Portage and Monticello. Yeah, pretty good amount of lightning around the Portage area. Severe storms just here north. Dalton, Kingston, Marquette, up towards Princeton, Wisconsin. They have backed off that tornado possible tag, 60-mile-an-hour gusts. And that's generally headed towards Green Lake, Fairwater, Fox Lake, and some of those areas in east central portions of Wisconsin. That severe thunderstorm watch goes another hour and a half. We'll see. They may extend some of that, especially those areas east of that cluster of storms. I wouldn't be surprised if they extend kind of this area of the watch. Looks like our areas in southwest Wisconsin not showing as much in the way of severe weather at the moment. And then, yeah, still that cluster of storms working into northeastern portions of Iowa. Yeah, not a lot of organization there, not a lot of wind. There's pockets of some gustier winds. And then down through the Des Moines area. These have continued to uptrend a little bit around Omaha. Yeah, we'll watch those push into the Omaha metro and then back towards York and Grand Isle. Yeah, I would guess Omaha is a decent area for chasers today. Some were probably out in Nebraska. Some may have been up in the Midwest. Omaha's a good kind of central point. And then if they want to continue chasing tomorrow, they can get down 29. Yeah. Some chasers may try to go down 29 to get into eastern Missouri. Others may stay back across the high plains. And we're getting out of like the prime chasing season, so quite a bit of chasers have kind of wrapped it up for their seasons. At least the ones that go really hard, especially across like May and June, or and July, and not July, but May and June and April. There's some pretty good winds in this complex of storms. This is at our camera just west of the Portage area. You can see the heavy rain blowing on those cameras, basically down the interstate there. It's a little less of an issue when the interstate is parallel with the winds. Those cars, and especially the higher profile vehicles, are just plowing into the wind. They're not getting broadsided by it. I always worry a little bit more when we have winds hitting from the side. And speaking of gusty winds, these are showing again just out of the Fremont area. So a pocket of winds in here, 60 to maybe 65. That's along US 77, approaching the valley area. And if that continues to hold, that's really close to the radar site too. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a new warning that gets issued for those areas downstream towards Gretna, Waterloo, the western areas of Omaha. It's working at 25. Let me time that out just to see what kind of timing we have here. All right, yeah, that looks good. Washington, about 18 minutes. Actually, let me bring it back just a little bit. Yeah, that's a better timing, I think. Bennington, 26. La Vista, 57. That's going to be about an hour then also to downtown Omaha. And out towards Valley, it's going to be about 13 to 16 minutes. Waterloo, 24. So, yeah, next hour or so, working across the Omaha Metro. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, but um yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, but some chasers will, especially because the Ohio Valley seems like it's been more of a hot spot of late. That may attract some chasers there just to give it a gamble. But yeah, I wouldn't really recommend that area. Pretty strong storms are pushing into those areas in the Omaha Metro. Let me see if we have some cameras down that way. We should. I'll just need to kind of reload them for a second. Okay, this should work. Let's go there. Yeah, we'll put it up in here. For some reason, I did not have my Iowa cameras loaded up. Okay. Fix this just a little bit here. I have to recrop this, but give me a second and let's get this cropped up. I don't know why I didn't have my Iowa cameras ready today. I usually do. I guess it was because earlier those storms were more in Minnesota. I don't know. I may have just kind of just had a brain glitch there and just didn't load the Iowa cameras. But a quick fix. I can get those on here in just a minute. Yeah, that works. Okay. They may reposition this camera because I feel like we've used this camera before and it usually has the skyline of Omaha in the background. So hopefully as those storms close in, they may be able to tilt this up just a little bit. I can see a little bit of sky peeking through there. It's very dark in the background. But generally, if they pan up, this is a pretty actually cool shot of the Omaha skyline with especially those storms coming into the background here. Still seeing a little pocket of 50, 60, maybe 62, 63 mile an hour winds pushing towards the valley area, very close to the radar site, only about 300 feet up. That is likely a wind profile that's reaching the ground. And then still that other storm up near Magnolia and Modal in western Iowa. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on those storms as they push through the Omaha Metro in the next hour or so. And then weakening storms across areas in central Nebraska, Bradshaw, Henderson, east of Grand Isle. It seems to be working now, Logan. Like, it's not bothering you. So, yeah, I don't know what was going on with it before, but it does seem to be working now. Interestingly, it looks like they're dropping that tornado possible tag. There still is a little bit of broad spin, kind of right in there, just along 34 west of Yuma. It looks like the hail has come down a little bit on that cluster of storms. Most of those are now east of Colorado 61 and approaching Colorado Highway 59 at especially US 34. Big outflow boundary out here that extends all the way through Stratton, and it looks like a couple of their outflow boundaries are sparking some new storms going up right on the Kansas and Colorado border, Cheyenne Wells, and west of Sharon Springs. We'll see if anything goes severe there. Yeah, looks like it's working okay. I reset everything the other day. I was one of the days recently, I was in monitoring mode and almost went live. Monday, it might have been Monday. I reset all the bot settings, the mod bot, and basically reset everything, make sure it's saved again, because I think it was not saving my customizations or something. So I started from scratch and rebuilt it. It seems to be working. Yeah, seeing those gusty winds pushing through the Portage area now. Pretty nasty storm still near Portage. I didn't realize we have the other camera that I've used recently at the Merrimack Ferry. This is on Lake Wisconsin. This is the North Shore looking south. So the storms would be coming from behind this camera, but that's an interesting profile too. We have both ferry crossing cameras. There goes the ferry back across. So that's a pretty cool perspective. This camera's been an interesting camera with some of the storms recently. Those are going to work their way down across Lake Wisconsin. So if you, I don't know if the ferry stops or not, but if you have any boating plans on the lake this evening, it's time to hang them up. Let me see. Did we have an observed tornado warning today? We had the funnel cloud report, at least on our stream. I don't think the one here has been observed, but let me see what we've had today. Trying to look back and see if we had the. Oh yeah, we did. No, that was the other day. Yeah, I don't think we've officially had an observed tornado warning today, it looks like. Those storms continue to weak through the Des Moines area, so they continue to be on a weakening trend. It's good to see. take a look. And yeah, still seeing these storms coming out of Colorado. The model's still in a kind of uptrend, those. This model run keeps those storms pretty feisty through the Omaha area before kind of weakening them into western Iowa. And yeah, those storms stay pretty strong through the West Bend area over towards Sheboygan. So yeah, we have a couple different clusters will looks like be bouncing between here this evening. Seeing the winds pick up in this storm a little bit near Modal, California Junction, and Missouri Valley. We'll have to watch that storm. It's going to work east of Omaha, but maybe out here towards Underwood, Persia, and the I-29 corridor in a little bit. Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Empty Glass, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Omaha just went under a severe thunderstorm warning, so the entire, basically Omaha Metro on the Nebraska side of things, and that goes until 9:15 Central Time. Right now, it does look like the primary threat is those gusty winds, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and it's moving to the southeast at 30 miles an hour. It does note radar indicated, but it also notes that this storm has a history of producing 60-mile-an-hour winds. Seems a little contradictory. That would basically be a confirmed 60-mile-an-hour winds. But, and we're seeing that really close to the radar site here, only about 200 feet up near Mercer and approaching Valley. Seeing a pocket in here in the 50s and 60s. Maybe another pocket also still back by Fremont, a couple areas of gusty winds. And then the second cell, actually now on the latest radar scan, just started to burst out. Yeah, that is interesting. See a little backward C shape on this little area right in here. It's not like a line segment backward C. It's just a little localized area there around Woodcliff, where that is really started to gust out. And just the scan came in while I was mentioning it. But yeah, that's going to be approaching the areas around Valley as well. Only a couple hundred feet off the ground. That potentially could be some 70-mile-an-hour gusts right in this little pocket. And it is moving to the east-southeast about 30 miles an hour. Let's track that out again, just to double check. And I guess for your specific question, I don't see a lot of rotation in this cell at the moment. So that is a good thing for the Omaha area. Overall, Venice, 11 minutes. Downtown Omaha, about 40 minutes or so. And then Bellevue, 54. That's south of Omaha. Bennington, only about 13 minutes or so. And Waterloo would be about 13 as well. Gretna, 27 to 30 minutes. Council Bluffs, Iowa, 45. And yeah, Omaha, about 37. We'll keep an eye on it just in case things get extra interesting. But yeah, I don't see a lot of rotation in those cells, at least right now. The only issue is we'll keep it as long as we can. We will lose a little bit of coverage. They'll go across the cone of silence. So we'll have a few radar scans where you don't really get a great look at these areas of gustier winds. In fact, if you look right here, the last scan, you can see this area of gusty winds that has actually tracked pretty consistently through the Fremont area and down 77. All of a sudden that disappeared. It's not really because it's weakened. It's actually just right in here, just on the edge of the cone of silence. So it'll be a couple radar scans. We'll get a different look at it as they get away from the radar site. But yeah, there's a couple swaths in here that have some 60 to 70 mile-an-hour gusts. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it has a shelf cloud kind of look to it. Quick storms generally on the west of that are on the weakening trend. But yeah, this cluster of storms has uptrended a little bit from Omaha up to areas around Woodbine, Dunlap, and Pisgah over towards Westphalia. This area also 60-mile-an-hour winds, quarter-size hail, and then still seeing the 60 in quarters in those areas around Modal. A couple other areas that have the winds have kind of expanded in a few of those different storms, and a ton of lightning also showing up there. They have warned now this tailing segment of the storms, the Bluffview, Prairie du Sac, and up towards Decorah, south of Portage. This does include Lake Wisconsin, so those areas along the lake shore. It's about to go downhill pretty quickly there. Let's see. Yeah, it's gotten quite a bit darker there. Keep an eye on both sides of the lake shore. I think I'll keep it on this one. Last time we used this camera, we could also see some whitecaps even on the lake. So that was a little bit interesting. We'll see kind of what winds this storm brings. And this camera, even though it doesn't show a lot of the sky, also has some trees. So we can kind of see how those winds are going. Hey, Ken I. Rose, welcome back. Yeah, I saw that. You guys have flash flooding potential all the way through Saturday. And I believe another, yeah, while we were on the stream, another flash flood warning came. I think it was this one, Wilson County. Yeah, Wilson and Smith counties in Middle Tennessee. Still storming there as well. So yeah, if you're in the Nashville area, just definitely turn around, don't drown. And especially as it gets dark, the roads can get a little extra dangerous there. Yeah, seeing a couple inches of rain, it looks like, across some of those areas around Lebanon. Inch to an inch and a half, potentially another inch or two more. And that tracks out. That's about what we're seeing on the radar perspective. A couple spots, maybe even a little bit higher, maybe closer to 2 inches, just west of Lebanon towards Leeville. And then also up along Old Hickory Lake, another area there that has 1 inch to 2 inches of rain, it looks like, up towards Gallatin. Things are downtrending. Those storms have quickly kind of gusted out. You can see that outflow boundary surging out south of the Nashville area with at least some gusty winds along that. So yeah, things should be winding down across Nashville tonight, but yeah, more rounds of storms tomorrow, more rounds of storms Friday, and more rounds of storms Saturday maybe too. Here comes the unloading of the ferry. Boy, I'd be I'd be happy to get off that right now because I'm sure they can see those storms coming from the other side of the lake there. So yeah, it's a fairly short ferry crossing. It's it looks like it's maybe about, yeah, it's only about a half a mile, the ferry crossing itself. So you're not over like super open water. And it might go more, yeah. You're not over like super open water, but still I wouldn't want to be on it while that storm is going through, while you have a severe storm. This is in central Wisconsin, basically, north of the Madison area, watching this cluster of storms. 60-mile-an-hour winds, maybe some small hail. I don't see a lot of hail in here. There may be a little bit near Dalton. Yeah, maybe a little pocket of hail right in there. That's going to be along Wisconsin 33, south of Wisconsin Highway 44, working towards the east. Good news is around that lake area, it doesn't appear to be very hail-driven severe risk or anything. And they're going to fill in the gap here around Port Calhoun, California Junction, and Missouri Valley. This is an area that's also starting to gust out pretty strong. 60, 61. Yeah, a couple 60-mile-an-hour gusts in there. That's just through the Blair area. And then about to cross the Missouri River into western portions of Iowa, around the Loveland area. That's Harrison County in Iowa and Washington counties in Nebraska. Also Pottawatomie County, also in southwest Iowa. A couple stronger storms now north of Omaha. Still seeing the pocket of 60 to maybe 65, 70 potentially in there near Mercer. They've not upgraded that to a considerable threat. But if we get any reports of any 70-mile-an-hour gusts, then they will probably pull the trigger on that one. And yeah, we've had at least gusts to 60, so it's definitely a severe thunderstorm. National Weather Service employee there at Fremont reported 60-mile-an-hour gusts at the airport. And then also to the south of Fremont, 58-mile-an-hour gusts at a personal weather station. So yeah, that one has definitely had a history of some gusty winds. Good news for the Omaha. Looks like the cars are going to be okay. I don't see a lot of big hail in that part of the storm. Thank you, Ken I Rose. Yeah, I'm happy. I think you're one of our newer, more active chatters and subscribers, and I appreciate you. Our community is growing, and I appreciate all of our community members and our active chats, and also our quiet viewers too. A lot of it is depending on the orientation of the radar. Let's see. Let's find one here. So these are, you'll see a lot of reds and greens right here, bright reds and greens, because they're just split with the radar beam. So there's not really rotation right here. But these greens are all winds going towards the radar. And then these reds are going away from the radar. So that's why this storm coming into the radar site is all green. And then storms like this one near Fort Calhoun are in the red. They're all basically going away from the radar. So yeah, this storm is moving east and also surging to the east. It gets a little bit trickier because there's also some storms up here. These ones are a little bit more towards the radar just because they're kind of sinking towards the south. And then there's situations like here. There is a little bit of convergence, not really rotation, because this is backwards. For rotation, we'd be looking more like winds going towards the radar, but this is likely a little more. There might be a little bit of rotation in there, but yeah, these are winds actually surging out like this. This is a little bit of a downburst. So we have greens going towards the radar and reds going away from the radar, but they're going away from each other. So yeah, you can see a lot of little features with these, with the velocity signatures. You can also pair the velocity signatures with, this is also really helpful. Yeah, not seeing a lot of rotation in there. Spectrum width shows us basically meteorological targets going at chaoticness. It shows us different directions of rainfall. And so despite some reds and greens next to each other where you might quickly think like, oh, there might be rotation there, spectrum width is pretty solidly not showing a lot of chaotic winds at different directions. So that really isn't really rotation right now. I will keep an eye on that storm. The only thing that's a little bit interesting in here is we have storms that are kind of working a little bit different directions. Those can add a little bit of localized vorticity. They may get some spin in there. Right now, they're not really, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. Yeah, it'd be kind of this area right in here. Just want to keep an eye on these as these storms kind of merge together. This one's surging out, and this one's kind of diving more towards the south, southeast. So yeah, a few different directions there. That can create at least a localized area of spin. We've lost our severe warnings across central Iowa right now. Still some stronger storms, Seward, York, and Grand Isle. Yeah, 70-mile-an-hour winds can do actually quite a bit of damage. 60, even 60-mile-an-hour winds can do a decent amount of damage, especially to like larger trees and things like that. And then here comes the winds into the Merrimack Ferry there on Lake Wisconsin. Seeing the camera shake a little bit. And then you can really watch these trees here. You can see if they start to move too much. I don't see a lot of movement yet, but there's some lightning. These storms are still severe out in now pushing from eastern Wyoming into far western Nebraska around Gehrig, just south of Torrington, and around LaGrange. areas there, pockets of some hail and gusty winds. This is another one of those clusters that the models are somewhat favorable on continuing into the overnight hours. But we'll keep an eye on that area too. Our storms, let's see, our storms near Ray have actually gusted out. See this strong outflow boundary surging out of this storm. And those have significantly undercut these storms. They have weakened very rapidly out here. Yeah, those are starting to fall apart around Yuma and Eakly, approaching Ray with at least some gusty winds from the outflow boundary. A couple of their storms trying to go up on some of these outflow boundaries. We see this a lot in the Texas Panhandle, closer to the dry line, but especially here. This outflow boundary is surging out from those storms, and then it looks like we have another outflow boundary that's actually surging up. So where those outflow boundaries come together, it's kind of like squeezing a bunch of toothpaste or a bunch of liquid or clay or anything you can kind of think of. And basically, if you squeeze that together, the only place it's going is up into the atmosphere. So that creates a little extra convergence and lift and just kind of squeezes everything together. Air parcel continues to lift up, and that's what creates new storms. That's kind of what happened over here near Cheyenne Wells. And then also those storms that, if I play this into motion, you'll see firing right along that outflow boundary, kind of just tracing that out. That's what's happening right there. So we'll see if we get any new severe storms in that area. We'll also see what they do with the weather watch. It expires in 5 minutes. There can be, with those converging winds, especially something like this here, where the, especially if a storm went up like right in this area, because we actually have winds going a couple different directions there. But yeah, you can sometimes get those, especially as they're closer on the leading edge. All right, back to the Omaha area. I just want to take a look and see these storms again. They're still right in the cone of silence, pretty much. Yeah, we'll wait another couple minutes to see what those look like. There is a little burst of wind that you'll get before kind of the heaviest winds. You can see that kind of in red right in there. So there is a little bit of a leading edge outflow. And then behind that, that's where the heaviest pocket of winds is just tucked behind. Approaching areas around Waterloo, working through the valley area now, and then over towards Bennington. These storms are still severe warned through California Junction, surging out through Missouri Valley, Fort Calhoun, and some of that gets down towards the Florence area. Loveland is about in on it. You can see that big surge of wind there, that big bulge of wind. And severe storms all the way up into western Iowa, Woodbine and Dunlop, close to Dow City. Ken I. Rose, I saw Alaska had a tornado, suspected tornado the other day, I think. I think it was July 3rd or July 4th. Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of social media pictures on it. Apparently there's some debate whether it was on the ground or not. It was, pictures and videos were far away from the tornado, land spout kind of tornado looking thing, but I don't know. Some of the pictures look fairly convincing that it was on the ground. But I think it was a super remote area, so I don't think they can't really go out there. I think so. It looked like higher terrain because there was mountain ridges and things. These storms are surging out here towards Brandon, Waupun, Fox Lake, and Rosendale, Wisconsin. And then seeing those heavy storms pushing through the Lake Wisconsin area, Portage, Decorah, down through Bluffview. That checks out. Our camera is looking to basically towards the northwest or the north. And you can see the winds, they're going towards the radar site, so they're pushing towards our camera. So you can see them kind of basically coming off the lake and then swiping through our camera feed. This storm does not appear like it's as strong as the one storm that was that we saw on this camera perspective, one of our last streams. I think it might have been a couple days before July 4th. People are lining up for the ferry, so I guess they'll go. I don't know if I'd like that on the ferry. Yeah, a couple storms to keep our eye on here. They aren't showing anything too crazy yet, but a couple of these little segments, we have to just watch little Boeing segments in here. And then still across the Omaha area, 60-mile-an-hour gusts. And not seeing quite as much in the way of the damaging winds on the eastern side of that valley radar. So we may have lost a little bit of the punch to these storms. Now would check out if they are outflow driven now. That may reduce some of the severity now. Oh, wow. Yeah, and whales are an important part of the food chain too in the ocean. So if you have whales like that, that's not good for the whole food chain. Usually indicates probably some other type of problem too. Yeah, I guess the ferry just docked. I don't know. I wouldn't want to drive that at night and in a severe thunderstorm. Yeah, that makes sense. They're starving, basically. Yeah, that's not good. All right, they've pushed that whole warning and they've extended it out across the eastern portions of the Omaha Metro, Bellevue, down to areas around Gretna, just north and west of Silver City, Trainer, McClellan, Underwood, and then up towards just south and west of Shelby. That covers a couple different storms in there. It covers the gusty winds that are surging out Missouri Valley down to Fort Calhoun, and then it still kind of covers this storm that's back near Valley that's going to swing through the Omaha area. And actually, just in our last radar scan, still in the cone of silence, but looks like we are starting to see still those 60, 65-mile-an-hour gusts in there near Valley. That is the National Weather Station, so we should get also a new storm report out of that location. Yeah, it usually takes a couple minutes to come in, but we should get that new storm report there. A couple other storm reports near Blair just a few minutes ago. 60-mile-an-hour gusts, personal weather station, and then a 59 at another personal weather station. So that storm has definitely had a history of producing some severe winds in there. You can see some of those pockets, those brighter colors especially. But in there, there's still a pocket about to cross the Missouri River and then the I-29 corridor. This is also a little weird convergence point. You can see that big surge of wind through California Junction. There's another cell that's pushing towards the south. So we'll see what that does, but not really rotation yet, just kind of a convergence point. That may be another area that uptrends. It could increase the hail temporarily. It could create a little brief spin. So we'll just kind of follow that area, especially near Missouri Valley. The model data isn't that supportive of this cluster of storms. I think right now it's actually overperforming some of the model data. So we'll see what it does. It's not crazy organized yet. There's actually, it's still kind of, it's not a big convective system yet. There's actually still kind of basically 3 or 4 different cells all kind of in here. They're a little bit more organized than they were a few minutes ago, but yeah, it's definitely uptrended. 'Cause, Actually, another cell there too. So it's kind of ingesting a couple different cells. We'll see what it does in the next couple minutes as it pushes through the Omaha area. But that storm complex also has an issue that it will work into some rain-cooled air. The separate complex of storms that's pushing through the Des Moines area, not severe across Des Moines, but that has left a lot of rain-cooled air that will this complex will continue to work towards. Yeah, we'll check back in a couple minutes because I'm curious to see what that weather station at Valley is going to report for winds. Looks like that area right around Valley, if there are some 65 to 70-mile-an-hour winds, it would be kind of right in that area where the radar site is. Hey, Colorado Clouds, how's it going tonight? Welcome, welcome. Pretty good. I'm doing good. We're kind of following a couple different clusters of storms at the moment. One in south central Wisconsin, Fond du Lac, down to areas north of Madison, and then keeping an eye on this severe warn cluster through the Omaha metro. That might be our more concentrated severe weather right now. A couple non-severe storms, but ones that were severe warned earlier. Grand Isle over towards areas west of Lincoln. Watching those storms as they sag towards the along the I-80 corridor. And then Colorado was a little busier earlier, but we've lost a lot of our severe warnings out along the Front Range. The one area that does still have severe warnings is areas around Gearing and Lyman and LaGrange, right along the Wyoming and Nebraska border. We'll see if they extend this through the looks like the US 26 corridor around Mitchell. That's Scotts Bluff County. Yeah, that's Scotts Bluff, Nebraska there as well. So areas just around the Scotts Bluff area, you may get some severe warnings in the next couple minutes. You know what? I just realized I didn't turn on my studio lights. Ah, that's a little better. All right. Yeah, that's a little better look to it. All right. Yeah, I popped down here after dinner and forgot to switch the studio lights on. Things look like they're calming down a little bit on that camera, so I'll probably switch cameras and let's go over to the Omaha area. I think they have moved this camera. They're now facing it east though, away from those storms. Hey, storm team, how's it going today? Yeah, it looks like Evansville is back in the severe risk. Let me check real quick. I want to see. I'm curious if they get this storm report in, and then we'll take a look at Evansville. Nothing in there yet. I'm real curious what kind of winds they had at this valley weather station, because there's definitely some pockets in here that were above 60, and those look like they went basically straight across the radar site. Even some in here about 100 feet off the ground seeing over 70. If they have a 70-mile-an-hour wind report, they may upgrade this to a considerable threat. And then a couple of those areas kind of surging out. Waterloo, going to be this area here, Waterloo to Bennington, and then also just north of Omaha in the Florence area, surging out towards McClelland. But yeah, not everybody's going to get the same kind of level of storm. It's not a very broad area of 60 plus mile winds, but there is a couple pockets in there that are a little bit higher than the rest. Let's see. Yeah, so here's all these storms tonight. They continue across the Missouri Valley overnight. This is like 4 a.m. getting towards Kansas City. It shouldn't be very severe, but this is going to be a lot of heavy rain in here across the Kansas City area. I wouldn't be surprised if that area maybe gets a little bit of flash flooding. And then as we go into the morning, things kind of fizzle out a little bit, but this whole complex is going to leave outflow boundaries and some rain-cooled air. And if it is an organized convective system, a little MCV that it could have, that will help spark new storm development in the afternoon. This is at about 5 o'clock. Yeah, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I have to start watching for storms to develop across southwest Illinois, east central, eastern Missouri. And then those continue to upscale and then push towards the Omaha, or not Omaha, but Indianapolis and then Evansville. This model shows about 10 o'clock central time. But that could be give or take. And then pushing into the Ohio Valley as a, this is new model data that I'm seeing for the first time, but that is a squall line. That also looks like we're broadcasting tomorrow night, too, is what that says. But that would be about midnight Central Time. I hope that doesn't verify, because the Ohio Valley has had a long severe weather season so far. But that would be potential severe weather from about just south of Fort Wayne, all the way approaching Cincinnati, all the way through Bloomington, approaching Louisville, and then all the way back towards Poplar Bluff as an overnight severe risk. 1 a.m. Eastern, midnight Central. So we'll see if that verifies. That's just one model run. You can see why the flash flood watches are up also for that area, because even after that line segment works through, there's still going to be more storms and moisture into the, this would be Friday morning. And then more storms. This model goes out to the evening on Friday, a little bit further south, but potentially more storms, Missouri, southern Missouri, the Ozarks, back into northern Arkansas, basically from about I-40, yeah, basically kind of I-40 to just north of I-44 and 64. Kind of that corridor looks to be where some of those storms are pretty heavy on Friday. Looks like we're going to be busy here on WeatherCast Live. The other thing is this types of pattern. Generally, also you get storms on the front range with the lee side troughing and cyclogenesis. So tomorrow, everything's good until the afternoon, and then we see more random clusters of showers and storms blowing up on the front range. Some of those could be severe with damaging winds. Some also larger hail. It looks like tomorrow, a little bit larger hail day. They continue to work towards the east, go severe, and then eventually kind of organize into a couple of different clusters and push eastward, and eventually kind of fizzle by the 35 corridor. But a rinse and repeat cycle there. And then again on Friday, this is Friday afternoon, same thing. Storms blow up on the front range and work east as clusters and generally fizzle into the evening and overnight by the time they get to the I-35 corridor. So very much a lot of the same. That camera freeze. There it goes. Camera may be a little freezy here with the storms approaching the Omaha area. South Central Kentucky, so it'd be into that tomorrow. It'd be into the overnight hours. Or what'd you say, Logan? South, yeah, South Central Kentucky. Oh, this is about 3 a.m. pushing through Lexington. Again, this is just one model run. Timing could change, but roughly Bowling Green towards Nashville about 3 a.m. on Friday morning. If you're east of there, maybe less of a severe risk, but storms would be pushing through basically between 3 and 6 a.m. And then you'll have to watch again on on Friday afternoon and evening. If this model's correct and it's a little bit more horizontal, then yeah, you could have severe storms across South Central Kentucky at any time into late Saturday or late Friday into the evening. But we'll get more model data for Friday later. All right, let's look at our clusters real quick and kind of I'll take them from west to east this time. Still seeing those severe storms. Yeah, this warning expires in a minute. We'll see what they do for this. This is in the Mitchell and Scotts Bluff area. Looks like the strongest storms are south of Scotts Bluff. A couple pockets there that could have some hail in it. Yeah, one pocket right here. I'm surprised it actually doesn't have a severe warning. But this is probably at least quarter size hail, quarters to $half size hail, kind of right in this little pocket right in there. I've said it on my streams before, but I have a customized color table, and I've customized and trimmed it and redesigned it every now and then. And I have it pretty good where it really does a good job reflecting the hail, even in the reflectivity. Some color tables are better at it than others, and this one does a pretty good job. It stays pretty true. Generally, we're seeing those brighter purple colors that generally is at least about $half size hail. So yeah, and that kind of verifies on the differential and probably shows up on correlation coefficient too, and it does. So yeah, this storm has a little bit more hail in it. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets a new warning. Looks like they're going to let the warning expire on those other storms. And then our second cluster to look at, this is in the Omaha area, surging out through Omaha, seeing a little bit less of the brighter winds in there. Still being warned 60 and maybe some small hail, although I don't believe there's a lot of hail in there. And some good news is this is a little bit more outflow driven. You can see the outflow boundary surging out, and that outflow is actually just cutting across the Omaha downtown right now, about into this camera. I don't see a lot of trees in this camera, so we're probably not going to get much there. Hey, Brad, how's it going this evening? Hope all is well in Oklahoma. We had that question in the chat about Oklahoma earlier. Oklahoma mostly quiet unless you're in the far Oklahoma panhandle this evening. And then tomorrow looks a little bit more interesting for weather in Oklahoma, with that slight risk dipping down into the western portions of Oklahoma. But yeah, those storms are also kind of fizzling. Yeah, slowly kind of fizzling in the Oklahoma panhandle right now. They have allowed this watch to expire. So that's some good news if you're in eastern Colorado. That also is a little bit of a downtrend compared to where models earlier showed more storms developing along the Front Range. That is an interesting development for our enhanced risk area. Yeah, we now don't have any severe watches right now in our enhanced risk area. Again, these mesoscale days and these days where you're depending on Lee's cyclogenesis off the Rockies and storms firing along those higher terrains along the Front Range, they can have booms or busts. I'm not saying it's a bust day because we've definitely had severe weather, but this area is enhanced risk because of damaging winds, and the environment and as well as model data were supportive of damaging winds today. So we'll see if any of this uptrends and we get that to pick back up. And the latest model data still showing, I mean, it still wants to uptrend some of those storms. So we have a window here in the next hour or two where we'll see if those do tend to upscale. Right now, they're going the other direction, but we'll see. All right, let's see. We've worked through the Omaha area. Still looking at storms. They're generally dying off around the Des Moines area. A big cluster of storms in northeast portions of Iowa that's had a history of flash flooding with it. Mason City, over towards Floyd County, Charles City, Iowa. Flash flood warnings continue there. And then seeing the severe storms continue across portions of east central Wisconsin now. Fond du Lac, Campbellsport, some non-severe storms, but they've kind of been sitting around this West Bend area for a little while. If that continues, we could get a flash flood warning out of those storms. This is going back the last hour, and you can see just storms continue to backbuild across West Bend, Belgium, and Port Washington in eastern Wisconsin, just off the lake there in Milwaukee as well. This is out of the Fond du Lac area, I-41 at US 151, which should be right here. Yeah, just on the south side of Fond du Lac. And that is an area that has probably the higher winds in this storm complex. So this will be a good sample to see what kind of winds are actually going on in this storm. Yeah, right on the leading edge of this. That's where, if we have any damaging winds, it's going to be right in that area. Those continue to work across eastern Wisconsin. That is Fond du Lac and Dodge counties in east central Wisconsin, 40 miles an hour to the east. They are warning that tornado possible tag now. And there is a little area spin near Oakfield. That is new, and that has picked up in intensity just in the last couple scans. So we'll keep an eye on that little notch right in there near Oakfield. And that would be basically towards Eden in the next couple minutes, likely staying south of Fond du Lac. That's some lightning I just saw on our camera out of the corner of my eye. That was so bright it actually caught like the corner of my eye. 40 mile an hour to the east. Eden would be about 16 minutes. Oakfield is just going to be a couple minutes there. And then downtown Fond du Lac, roughly about 9 to 10 minutes. And then if this holds together, it's going to get towards the lake shore around Sheboygan in about an hour or so. Elkhart Lake, 42 minutes. Batavia, about 40 minutes or so. And areas like Van Dyne, 8 minutes. Hey, Bam, I didn't see you in here earlier. Welcome, welcome. I saw some storm chasers posting earlier this afternoon from Alberta. I feel like that area's been pretty hard hit recently. Oh, yeah, there's a big cluster of storms up here. Let me pull up Canadian warnings. Yeah, okay, it's going to be right on the edge of that storm, just south of Lloydminster. It's going to be this cell right there. Shear rate does show something in there. Looks like it's Provincial Highway 17, right on the Alberta-Saskatchewan state line or provincial line. Let's see, that's north of Macklin. Yeah, that's a pretty nasty storm complex. Generally, not in the tornado warning right now, but generally working towards Cut Knife, Saskatchewan. And then this whole line appears to be, yeah, the whole line is severe warned to the north of that. So through Lloydminster, approaching Turtleford, and then all the way up towards Meadow Lake. Looks like severe warnings continue there in Canada. But yeah, that is that's a nasty line of storms. Looks like some other storms pretty feisty there back north of Calgary. Let's see. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised then. That could be ongoing. It's a little too far from the U.S. radars right now for me to get like a really good low level look at it. But yeah, just based on what we're seeing there, definitely possible it's still on the ground. Let's see. Yeah, the lightning has really picked up on that perspective there out of the Fond du Lac area. That's an area that I'm intrigued about with the little area of rotation also. I was approaching the Oakfield area. Yeah, a little spin right in there just to the west of Oakfield. Hey, Sarah, how's it going today? Sarah, I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but we'll finally, it looks like, be covering eastern Missouri tomorrow on a live stream. Tomorrow's severe weather looks probable for eastern Missouri into south and southwest Illinois. And based on that last model run we looked at a few minutes ago, potentially more expansive across the Ohio Valley, but we'll see if models trend in the right direction. Let's see, storm team. Yeah, this is HRRR. I usually, if I'm doing a forecast, I will look at a few different models. On the live streams, I tend to more just rely on the HRRR. All models have error and biases and things. HRRR does a pretty solid job, at least kind of getting an idea of storm mode and timing and stuff. I tell myself I should use it more, but I mean, we have access to quite a bit of models. We should start using it more because it's going to be operational soon. Although they did push it back, I just heard. But the Rufus model does an okay job, I think, with timing if you track it out where the time is. But the Rufus model wants to just print supercells just everywhere. It just over convects, and it just turns every single storm into like a giant hail producing F5 tornado producing a supercell. And like, you know, I don't know. There's some things I like about the Rufus. There's some things I don't. I mean, look at Florida. It just blows up like a supercell over Florida right now. Like, that's not happening. Like, like all these little things. Like, anyway. So I should use the Rufus more because it is becoming operational as an operational model, but it just it doesn't really, I don't know. To me, it just doesn't get the storm mode very good. Because it wants to create everything as a supercell. Yeah, I'm doing good, Sarah. Let's see. Oh, I mean, it's good you like the storms. Yeah, that's one thing. It might cool you off just a little bit tomorrow if you get storms working through. I think, what do we see earlier? Like 4 or 5. Let's see what the Rufus does for tomorrow. Well, the Rufus didn't go out that far. Yeah, the Rufus, I mean, the timing is okay for the Rufus model. It it does show kind of like the HRRR that storms really get energized starting around 5 o'clock in the lower Missouri Valley and the Ozarks. They become more numerous in the 6 o'clock hour and then continue to upscale into the 7, 8, 9 o'clock hour. Still wants to put more of a convective system or more clustering into eastern Missouri. It doesn't put as much into across the rest of the Ohio Valley. So there's a little bit of model difference there between the Rufus and the HRRR model. So, but timing is okay. I don't know. I like the Rufus for timing. I just don't like, and we do have people that watch that have storm anxiety, and the Rufus just shows supercells all over. So, so although you have to make people aware of potential for supercells, the Rufus just makes too many of them. But yeah, on an actual forecast, I usually switch between a couple different models. Let's see what the NAM says, just out of curiosity. Yes, the NAM does a fairly good job. It's a little bit delayed compared to the other two. It looks like it's saying more like 6 or 7 o'clock. Storms really get firing. And then it does eventually trend a little bit more like the HRRR, where it does take storms into the central portions of the Ohio Valley into the overnight hours. So a little different than the Rufus as well. But then kind of weaker across the Ozarks. So there's model differences for sure going into tomorrow. But some of that is also because the models are still trying to figure out what happens today based on how strong the storms overnight are. If we actually get clusters of storms overnight, and those leave outflow boundaries and MCV potential. So yeah, I see why the models are in disagreement because they are handling the current convection differently. But yeah, 99% of the time, you'll probably just see me for the live streams, you'll just see me mostly using HRRR. Let's see. Yeah, if you're in Nashville, I don't think the tornado parameters probably aren't towards the Nashville area. Nashville, those storms look like are going to come through probably too late in the evening. Yeah, that's why there's this flash flood watch or flood watch across much of the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley. This goes through Saturday too, because you may get more storms that stick around Sarah into Friday as well. Looks like another round of storms potentially Friday. Yeah, usually I will. Can I Rose? I think tomorrow that looks good. If the storms fire in that 4 to 5 kind of time frame, then I'll be live around the 4 or 5 mark. Every now and then, like today, I had a conflict. Basically, I was cooking dinner tonight. I was the chef tonight. My wife wasn't feeling great, so I was gonna hop on earlier. Then I decided to cook dinner and just stay off for a minute. But yeah, 4 or 5 is like prime time. There comes the storms into the Fond du Lac area. So yeah, we'll probably start 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow and take it through the at least into the overnight hours. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, she is. I think I should probably text and double check, but I mean, she's texting me non feeling things, so I think she's feeling better. Okay. Yeah. If she's texting me random stuff, then it's probably feeling a little better. But yeah, a decent amount of lightning with this cluster of storms. Take a look at that. And let's see. Yeah, about 200 lightning strikes. That has come down, I believe. Okay, yeah, so that storm may be weakening just a little bit. It has come down in intensity with the lightning strikes. There still is a little circulation in here near Oakfield. Keeping an eye on that one. Still seeing it also there in the spectrum with approaching Byron, sorry, Byron, and then over towards Dundee, Eden, Campbellsport, and Armstrong. Still nasty storms. Those are definitely still severe warned storms. And they may work their way as severe storms all the way through the lakeshore to Sheboygan. I think I commented, Sarah, on one of your comments. I actually, some of them were old, so I apologize, Sarah. The other day I actually got caught up on I cleared my comments on YouTube. I responded to every single comment, even some of the oldest ones. So that felt good. It kind of felt like at work when you clear your inbox out, like that rarely happens, but it was a rewarding thing to clear all my comments or my unresponded comments. I got everybody. Stones, if you're in here too, I think I commented on a couple of your older comments too that I missed. But most of the I get most of the comments. Like I will get most of your comments if you leave stuff on our discussion page or on like forecast videos. I think most of the old comments were just like questions if I was going to go live on a day of severe weather. And usually if I missed that comment, it was probably because I was prepping a stream for the most part. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do in a couple minutes, Sarah. I want to get through at least these Omaha areas. We'll get through Omaha and then I'll pop up and check on her. And then that provides me an opportunity to refill my water and just stretch my legs a little bit too. Sounds good, Sarah. Have fun. Still seeing a pretty big batch of winds still across the Omaha area. They have come down a little bit in intensity, seeing those 60-mile-an-hour gusts in here from Florence to Irvington along Highway 6, Omaha, and points west. Let's shuffle over to the Omaha cameras. I haven't seen anything crazy on this camera. This is just east of Omaha at the Missouri River Bridge, I-480. Rain's definitely coming down. The lightning has picked up. But yeah, I don't think we're into those strongest winds yet on this camera. Whoa, they just turned the camera a little bit on the Wisconsin camera. I don't know what they're looking at, but we'll go back there in a minute. These storms continue to show a little bit more organization. They have still a little leading edge here that is trying to gust out a little bit near Avoca, Oakland, Iowa, maybe up towards Harlan. We'll keep an eye, see if that gets a new severe warning. And yeah, there's a pocket in here near Minden that's probably in the 60-mile-an-hour range. So wouldn't be surprised if this does get a new extension somewhere like this, just to cover that whole line segment. As I mentioned earlier, though, it should start to decrease. It will eventually get into this rain-cooled air from the storms that are through the Des Moines area. So that should weaken as it pushes towards the east and southeast. Let's see. Interested, we still didn't get a report there out of Valley for the winds. Waiting to kind of see what those winds are like in that storm. Earlier, that tornado warning, there was the funnel cloud report right when we were coming on stream, there was the tornado warning. That storm also looks like had 74-mile-an-hour winds reported at the Aurora, Nebraska airport, just south of there, 70 or 68-mile-an-hour winds. So certainly that area got hammered pretty hard there around Aurora. That's in central Nebraska. I was going to pop over to a different storm, but let me hold here for a second. We'll see the radar scan coming around. That is a new radar sweep. We get those every 3 to 4 minutes generally. And that'll show us a little bit of new data. If the storm is sped up, you'll see it jump ahead. It's still probably about 30, so not a big change, but there it goes. Yeah, still seeing that area there near Minden and approaching Avoca. That area probably will get a new warning if that holds together. A couple thousand feet away. Hmm. I guess I think of that area as closer to Omaha, but it's, I guess, not as close as I thought. And then still watching the tornado possible severe thunderstorm warning. This is no, it's still in here. 21 more minutes. It does look like it's gusted out pretty significantly, though. Yeah, here it is around the Oakfield area. Okay, not great radar, but yeah, it's pretty significantly gusted out over the Byron area over towards Eden. Just west of Byron, you can still see a little bit of that rotation in here. Winds going way and towards the radar. This is kind of the little signature right there. If I put this a couple scans later, and it's really fallen apart. So, not as imminently tornadic, it looks like. Still a strong storm, still a lot of lightning as we see on our camera right there. A perfect timing with the lightning coming in. But yeah, this is out of the Fond du Lac area. Looks like winds have calmed down in this camera perspective, which probably checks out. We're just on the back side of this. There's Fond du Lac. We're right about there. So it looks like those leading edge, the winds are on the leading edge for this storm complex. Might be hard for you guys, but I can tell the wind is backed off because the rain in the lights is pretty much fairly straight down. Gusts at times, but yeah, I'm not seeing those sheets of rain. And yeah, there's those kind of leading edge winds right in this core, pushing up towards St. Peter's, Pipe, and St. Cloud, Wisconsin. They've dropped the other warnings in Wisconsin. There were a couple stronger storms that were north of the Madison area. Those are pretty much all outflow driven at the moment. Columbus, Bristol, Lowell. Some of this may skirt northern portions of Milwaukee. Like those storms haven't really regained intensity as they've worked into western Michigan. There's a storm here that's gone up near Standish that is a little bit feistier. That's going to go over Saginaw Bay. And then we had a flash flood, or we had a severe thunderstorm warning a few minutes ago in North Carolina. It looks like those storms have diminished. I have before Kenai Rose for the flash flood warnings. They are hard to stream. They are admittedly pretty hard to stream. But we have covered them at times fairly extensively. One of the last ones was in Wisconsin, April maybe, and the whole highway was basically flooded out, and cars were trying to drive through it. It was a big mess. We've covered some flash flooding, especially coastal flooding with a few tropical systems that I can think of over the last couple of years. But like I don't know. Generally, it's hard. It's hard to cover these flash flood warnings because flash flood warnings are they cover better with ground truth, and not as many storm chasers will go look at flash flooding anyway. But also, yeah, like sometimes even just all the cameras tend to be elevated, whether it's a weather camera or a traffic camera. So it's a little hard, like from the perspective you see above me, to get a really good look at the flash flooding. And then the other thing that makes flash flooding hard to cover is it's very localized. Um, if you live in this flash flood warning, you may have problems because you may be in a valley that floods really easy, or you may be on the top of the hill, and if you're up here, then the flash flooding is not a big factor. But if you're down here in a really steep valley, things have problems. So yeah, as Paul said, it's very unpredictable. It's a problem. It's why there's so many flash flood fatalities, because it is very hard for forecasting. It's very hard to warn. Yeah, I wrote a big paper one time on it, like a research paper, and put diagrams and stuff. It's very hard because if you have a line of severe thunderstorms, let's say kind of like working across the same area, if this is a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, a lot of people are going to get some type of severe weather because that whole line is going to generally work across the same area. So if it's a severe warning, you generally get a little broader coverage of the severe weather. But if it's a flash flooding, your neighbor that's down along the creek could have major issues, and you could be only 100 or 200 feet laterally or horizontally different. But if you're also up 200 or 300 feet, then you're out of the flash flood issue. So it's also very personalized. It's very localized. It's something I wish we could cover more, but it's just how the nature of flash flooding, it just kind of stacks up that it's very hard to cover broadly. And that's why I do encourage everybody, you can follow your favorite streamer, but also have multiple ways to receive weather coverage. And especially for flash flooding, I think your local meteorologist, your local television news, um, and even though TV news isn't doing great, your local TV meteorologist is also on social media. They can do a pretty good job covering it because they can also very quickly put boots on the ground to the edge of the flash flood where they have the road closed. So I always recommend, especially for flash flooding, the local meteorologist will do a really great job covering that, or they should. Yeah, that too, Paul. But even river flooding that's not flash, it's still even hard for streamers to cover that. I mean, we talked about him a little bit in the earlier stream. I mean, look at Ryan. He has, millions of subscribers. He is streaming is doing very well financially. He's got storm chasers and a whole big network of weather media that he has the tools of, and it's even hard for him at his level to cover flash flooding, just because we're just as weather streamers, we're just a little too distant from very localized events like that. And we did just get a tornado. It's much easier for us to cover hurricanes. I mean, us in general, the digital weather community, to cover hurricanes, severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, all those other kind of events. Even fires. Fires are even a little hard or a little easier to cover because they sometimes do cover a broader area, like the LA fires and stuff a few years ago. Let's see. We'll check on Mineral Point in just a couple minutes. Let me look at this tornado warning that just came out. It's for that area that we've been watching for a little while. It's the comma head on this area of storms, and it's the area that I said needed a new warning. They, it looks like, have issued both a severe thunderstorm warning to cover the winds, and then they've also issued a tornado warning. Potawatomi, Harrison, and Shelby counties in southwestern Iowa, moving east at 15, 3 miles southeast of Persia, or near Harlan. So it's going to be a very broad area, looks like, of rotation. Yeah, it's very broad. I'm surprised they are warning that, actually, but There is rotation in here. It's just more of like a little MCV, but I guess it was a little bit tighter just a couple minutes ago near Persia. It localized maybe for a minute there. That is going to accentuate this wind threat though. So Avoca to Walnut, 60, 65 mile an hour winds coming down the I-80 corridor. So yeah, continue to take tornado safety precautions. Corley, Shelby, just north of Minden, and then over towards Avoca. Let me see. We may have a camera over there too. Wow. Let's see. It's hard to see anything right now in that severe warning. All right, when that loads, that's probably the best view of that. That's right at I-80, looking to the east, northeast, towards that area of rotation. Again, it's pretty broad, so I don't think there's anything really localized right there, but we'll see if we see anything when the lightning flashes, if that loads. All right, let's see. Let's look at, yeah, it looks like maybe briefly it may have tried to spin up. Mineral Point. I've heard of that. Why do I not see it right now? Let's search it. Oh, okay. Well, it looks like the severe thunderstorm watch on the current track expires in the next 10 minutes. That's around the Dodgeville area. Oh, yeah. I recognize it now. We covered you guys on the last stream, I believe, or one of the last streams. The tornado warning that went through there. Looks better tonight. Mineral Point. That is Eric. Yeah, tonight you guys should be good to go. Batch of rain looks like is moving through, but the storms have really significantly backed off that area. Taking a look at model data just to double check that. Yeah, it looks like most of the storms, stronger storms, may be staying into Iowa later tonight. They may skirt that area, but you may get more heavy rain. But I think the severe threat is really diminished across that Mineral Point area. Look for more storms tomorrow. Maybe generally, more general storms. But yeah, this evening looks a lot better for Mineral Point. Latest model run still wants to weaken this cluster of storms, the one that has the tornado warning in the next hour or two as it gets into southwestern portions of Iowa. And it still is trying to uptrend those storms out along the high plains, and as well as still putting more development into Kansas. And I think it's going to be a really floody night in Kansas, it looks like. Some pretty heavy rain from about 2 all the way through 6 a.m. And yeah, this will be interesting to see how it fares for tomorrow. The models still kind of hint by 6 or 7 a.m. We still might have a little MCV out of this cluster of storms. This little MCV, if that actually does develop, would be a problem to spark some more storms tomorrow, which why that severe risk is a little conditional because it depends on the storm activity from now until then. If we don't get as strong of storms without an MCV, then there's still going to be some forcing to get some storms to go up tomorrow afternoon, but it may have a little less localized vorticity, so it may be less of an all hazards threat, potentially more of a wind and rain and messy storm cluster kind of threat. All right, let's get back to that tornado warning. We'll see if it tightened up at all. I don't think it has. Yeah, shear rate picks up on that little broad area of spin too around Persia. This is when that warning just was about to come into place. You can see a little bit of spin in there. Shear rate did intensify just a little bit. And yeah, it's still in here. It's just south of Persia, just east of Yorkshire. There it is, also showing on spectrum width just a little bit there. There's a little bit more of those chaotic winds showing as it started to tighten up. And then we can also see it in here as kind of this little S shape with this little curly Q also kind of attached to that. And that checks out. That's right actually where that little tighter area is. So things are showing okay. It's in here near McGill, Shelby, and Persia. And yeah, I'd say east-southeast at about 15 miles an hour. Avoca, about 23 minutes. Walnut, if it holds together, would be about 45. And then they are going to have a new warning that extends out. This is going to be, I believe, a different office. Yeah, it's out of the Des Moines office. That is going to be for areas like Griswold, Lewis, Atlantic, Marnie, and up towards Brayton, Iowa. That's western Cass and southwestern Audubon counties, west central Iowa. 60-mile-an-hour winds, penny-sized hail. Yeah, the winds, this is an interesting storm because if there is a tornado, it's going to be tucked kind of back up in the rain here by Shelby. You're going to get the wind and lightning and maybe some penny-sized hail first. And then if there is a tornadic circulation, it's back up in that rain and wind. So you're not going to see this coming. Please don't go try and look for it. I don't see any correlation coefficient that shows non-meteorological targets. For the rest of this line segment, they've actually dropped some of those warnings across the Omaha area. Still strong storms moving through Lincoln right now, back towards Dorchester and Friend, Nebraska. And then storms kind of weaken as they get south of Grand Isle. But yeah, overall, those storms south of that little comma head have weakened some. I still think there are some pockets in here, some 60-mile-an-hour winds, La Vista, and over towards Belleville. There is an Air Force station there, so if there are some 60-mile-an-hour winds, we should get confirmation of that at the Air Force weather station. And then Trainer, Oakland, Hancock, and Avoca. Still seeing some stronger winds, but maybe just below those severe limits. There are two areas to watch in the Eastern Pacific. And tomorrow, likely tomorrow afternoon, I will have a tropical update. We're going to start doing them. I think we did them most of last year as we got into deeper into hurricane season, but we're going to do tropical update Thursdays. Still seeing that spin in here, but just west of Shelby. So yeah, I started putting some stuff together late afternoon, and then switched over to streaming prep and then dinner prep, and then now streaming. But yeah, I'll finish it up tomorrow morning, and then get that posted probably around lunchtime, maybe a little after. Looks like nothing in the Atlantic Basin for the next 7 to 10 days. And then today's forecast video had the update on Bavi, because Bavi looks like it's kind of center line for China, basically. Link should work. That pulled up weird, but that is the forecast video link. After you're done, after the stream is done tonight and you wrap it up, you can watch the forecast video. It's a little long. It got a little long, but it does have timestamps. You can go to the description, click on the timestamp. There is a pretty significant section on Bobby. Still, at when I did that, it was still a Category 4 storm. I haven't seen what it is right now. That freaked me out a bit on correlation coefficient, but that looks to be on the rear side. There is something there. I don't know. We'll see what that looks like in another scan or two. Could be a little something localized right there, but either way, still kind of in there near Shelby. Yeah, Kenai Rose, it does tend to favor less hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin and an active pattern in the Pacific. So, and then La Nina is usually the opposite. La Nina favors more of an active pattern in the Atlantic Basin. So it may be an under average or below average hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin, but it only takes one. So especially if you live along the coast, then it's a big issue. We have all kinds of new the Aguacero weather update this week, which I feel like they pump out one or two almost a week, but added a ton of new hurricane models, including the new Google DeepMind hurricane model. So we have a ton of different hurricane models to play with, as well as like intensity guidance charts and all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm excited to use this more going into hurricane season. Obviously, not if it's impacting a bunch of people and having, big natural disasters, but at least to help prepare our viewers and help keep everybody safe. I am pretty excited to use some of these latest tools that Aguacero has put out for the hurricane season. All right, still seeing that tornado warning. It continues another half hour or so. It is moving a fairly slow distance here. And yeah, it's still kind of hanging out on the backside just near Shelby and I-80. Okay, if there is a circulation, it'd be right near this camera, so we can take a look and see if we get any change in wind direction or anything like that on this camera. This is looking east. I don't see a ton of wind even right there. But, okay, winds are kind of blowing. We'll see. If we get a change of wind direction, that would be a sign. All right, let me go check on my wife for a minute, and we'll keep covering this severe weather coverage here. Yeah, they just updated that warning. It's still radar indicated. Still goes 27 minutes. I think they just trimmed it up a little bit. Wanted to make sure they didn't add a observe tag or anything on it. There is a little bit of a wind direction change also on our camera just now, apparently. Okay, everybody's doing good. I helped take the dogs out and also grabbed a snack and refilled my drinks. So we're good to go. Back at it. Oh yeah, Helene. That Helene flooding was absolutely insane. The other 24, they are still, I saw something the other day about it. Not the other day, it was about 2 weeks ago. North Carolina Department of Transportation opened up another section of highway, but they still have major highway reconstruction work. And that's just the highways. People are still displaced. Helene and the flash flooding associated with Helene changed some of the landscape forever. So some areas are never going to be exactly how they were. And I would assume probably some people are deciding not to rebuild in their river valleys and things that flooded with Helene. But yeah, just an incredible disaster. Looks like that rotation has backed off. Seeing a lot of broader colors in here. You can see there's a separation between the reds and the greens. More of that gray coloration. So yeah, it's definitely backed off some. There is a broader kind of spin in here, but it's not, I don't think it's eminently tornadic. We'll see what that does though. Yeah, it's definitely spinning. You can even see it on the reflectivity. This may kind of expand this wind threat on the southern flank of this little comma head in here. So it's a pretty organized little MCS complex right now, and pretty distinct little comma head feature. This bows out and continues the rain cool air surge. So that may bring a little bit more wind risk towards Lewis, Atlantic, Waiata. I think that's how you say it, and Marnie. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot in there anymore for the tornadic circulation, but we'll keep an eye on it. Outflow dominant storms looks like through the Lincoln area. A lot of lightning in that cluster. And then we've lost our severe warnings out in Wisconsin. Actually, a little surprised about that, but this was the severe warning that was a tornado possible tag as it came through the Fond du Lac area. I thought they might keep it severe warning through the lake shore, but either way, some strong storms coming towards the Sheboygan area. This is out of the Avoca area in Iowa, looking east on I-80. Still a lot of truck traffic going through that tornado warning storm. Yeah, I don't see a ton of wind in there. That's basically the center of that rotation still. Just not seeing a ton of wind in there. There's a little bit. But yeah, overall, I think it has backed off in intensity a little bit. And then, let's see. Here's looking out of the Sheboygan area, looking to the northwest towards those storms. As those close in on the lakeshore in Wisconsin, we'll get a sample before they head out to the open waters. They're probably just below severe limits. There's probably some gusts in here, 40 to 50. It does look like lightning has come down in intensity in general in this cluster of storms, and not seeing it as much on the horizon on that camera perspective, so that's a good sign that things have backed off in intensity just a little bit. Western Wisconsin, we had some questions about that area earlier. Things have really died off. Madison over towards Dodgeville and Richland Center. Still a batch of wind, or not wind, but rain and some embedded lightning in there. especially back across areas like eastern Iowa, Cedar Rapids up to Waterloo, and then areas south of Mason City. Talked about it earlier on the stream, but flash flooding is always an issue. Please turn around, don't drown, especially in flash flood warnings at night. Looks like 2 to 5 inches of rain in the areas there in Mason City. Law enforcement reported flash flooding. So yeah, definitely make sure we're paying attention to road closures, and even if the road isn't closed, but you see water covering the roadway, just take the long way home. Storms through the Des Moines area, they are tending to weaken as they push south and east of Des Moines. Still keep an eye on this storm, but it will eventually run into some of that rain-cooled air. So I think this storm is a fairly limited distance here, unless it starts to pull along that rain-cooled boundary, which it could do. If it starts to turn more towards the southeast, that could keep it going. But if it just continues to stay along the I-80 corridor, it should run into that more stable air. And they have let that tornado warning expire, so that is the right call. Yeah, not tornadic anymore. Still has a little bit of a general spin in there, as kind of that little comma head, little MCV type feature does, but overall that storm has come down in intensity. There's a look out of those areas around Avoca, looking towards the Walnut area. Seeing a little bit more lightning on the Wisconsin camera. We'll keep an eye on them. And then these storms have really slowed down. They're still working across the Omaha areas, down through Belleville, and approaching areas like Murray in eastern Nebraska. Western side of Omaha, out along Highway 6 towards Waterloo, Bennington. Things are lessening up. Like near Shelby, just a few minutes ago, we did get a 67-mile-an-hour wind gust at a personal weather station. So yeah, that storm definitely means business. And some other storms, not really severe, but just a cluster of them across the Missouri Valley in western portions of Iowa and extreme northeast portions of Nebraska. Let's see. Earlier, those storms near the ferry crossing on Lake Wisconsin, a 56-mile-an-hour wind gust, 59 at between Decorah and Portage. So we saw some pretty strong winds on one of those traffic cameras, and then 50 earlier near Dalton. So yeah, those storms definitely brought some severe winds. We'll see if we get any other new severe reports. I don't see any immediately there from the Fond du Lac area. I like to check those storm reports from time to time. It helps kind of confirm what's going on in the storms, seeing trends. If we start to see like higher winds trending up, then we know it's confirming that it's kind of an uptrending storm. Or if we start to see like lower wind reports, or wind reports just completely drop off, then we know it's usually a downtrending storm. This storm now severe warned in areas just south and west of Lincoln. That is Lancaster, Seward, and Saline counties, as well as Gage County in Nebraska. East-southeast at 25. So most of that should miss the Lincoln area. But down towards Hickman, Cortland, and Wilbur. So these thunderstorms don't look that impressive on the reflectivity, but they are getting a considerable threat severe thunderstorm warning. That is for southeastern Yuma County in Colorado, northeastern Kit Carson County, also in Colorado, and then southern Cheyenne and Sherman counties in northwestern Kansas. Moving east at 30, 70-mile-an-hour winds. Automated sites reported 59-mile-an-hour winds, but they're calling for 70. Hmm. Okay, one of the guesses was almost 70. Yeah, decaying showers and storms, 66-mile-an-hour gusts. And then the second one, or the first one, no, sorry, those are the same storms, but just a different day. Uh, 66 was from last night, but decaying showers and storms, so I thought it was the same. So the newest one is a 60-mile-an-hour gust. Hmm, that's interesting. There's definitely a pocket of winds in here. Pretty close to the radar site, about 1,000 feet up, seeing some 60s. I don't see a lot of 70s, though, right now. Maybe a pocket in here of like 65. So that could be a little pocket there. Pretty close to the radar site. That's going to be north of the Goodland, Kansas area. And it's a bit dry. So these are degrading thunderstorms. It means you're maybe not going to hear these ones coming. They're not going to be a lot of loud thunder, a lot of flashy lightning. It could be a fairly small shower, but all of a sudden the winds are going to pick up just in that area where the precip is. And you may get some gusty winds out ahead of that. This outflow boundary has surged way out in front. Probably, yeah, like 30 miles out in front. Otherwise, we've lost those watches in eastern Colorado. Looks like storms are fairly behaved into Wyoming right now too. Did we get any more storms across Arizona? We had some people watching from Arizona earlier. No, still kind of staying away from the Tucson area. And it looks like Phoenix stayed mostly dry. So they have trimmed this watch out. Wisconsin, you guys are not in a severe watch. The only isolated severe chances right now seem to be in this area, immediately in the Sheboygan area, down to areas around Hartford, Menominee Falls, north of Milwaukee. Still seeing a potential there for an isolated severe storm. But pretty soon that whole cluster is going to be out over the open water to Lake Michigan. And I don't see any really prominent areas of wind in there right now, but still an area to keep your eye on. Cedar Grove, Belgium, up to Sheboygan. This watch goes until 1 a.m. in the central time zone, so another 2 hours, 38 minutes. A couple stronger storms in southern portions of Nebraska, Hastings, and then down towards Hebron, Beatrice, and Geneva, right along the Kansas border. One of those is severe. This is the gust to 60. Crete, Hallam, Hickman, and areas south of Lincoln. And then storms kind of trail up along the I-80 corridor, Eagle, over to Plattsmouth, and then south of Omaha, pushing through areas like Council Bluffs down to Bellevue. You can see above me the heavy rain on that camera. Keeps kind of freezing up. It's a little bit of a remote camera, and it's in pretty heavy thunderstorms at the moment. And then seeing that wind surging out through Griswold and Lewis, Atlantic, up back towards the Walnut areas, and a lot less tornadic. It's still kind of a big bulge of wind in there, but the wind threat seems to be calming down a little bit. It has definitely looked a little more impressive when it was back here. Tornado warned, and a little more concentrated pocket of heavier wind. Yeah, see that? Some brighter colors in there, Hancock and Avoca. Those have significantly decreased in intensity. Still a little bit of a pocket of heavier wind in here near Lewis, but that has calmed down. I think we're okay, are we? Try to just hit the refresh button, or make sure when you're watching the stream, go to the next to the volume, go to the live button and hit the live button. Make sure you have a little red dot next to the live, and that'll help you catch up. I don't see any streaming issues on my end. So yeah, sometimes I've noticed YouTube has done that recently when I've been watching some live streams. Is it seems like after a while it somehow glitches out or something. And sometimes you just need to click that live button. You know, I think it was Bam that said it earlier, but I just posted on socials. This should pop up the social link on X, and just storm chasers up in Paradise Valley, Alberta, captured a couple hours ago. Looks like a cone tornado, pretty visual.
A new flash flood warning has been
Partially
issued.
wrapped in rain there. But yeah, looks like a couple tornadoes potentially there in Alberta and Saskatchewan today. Oh, and another one, pretty thick cone tornado near Senlac, Alberta, earlier this evening. So yeah, there's been, looks like a couple tornadoes. Some of them fairly substantial looking in size, not like wispy little ropes, but fairly wide tornadoes. Some 3-inch hail, teacup size hail, Dinsbury, Alberta. So yeah, some pretty significant weather. It looks like up in the Canadian prairies today. So yeah, sometimes we have where'd the socials go? That's weird. It didn't pop up. See if that works. Otherwise I'll just manually link it. Yeah, sometimes we have a couple chasers that we have some access to their stuff that I can show on stream. For some of the other chasers that I don't have their streaming access, I can at least repost their photos and videos on social media that they take. So go over to X, like us on there. We also post our videos when we go live and stuff like that on X. But otherwise, yeah, take a look. And looks like there are a couple. Yeah, there still is one tornado warning in Canada right now. Large hail, locally intense rainfall, and a tornado possible 40 kilometers southeast of Neilburg, Alberta, and is moving to the southeast at 40 towards Reward, Alberta. So that storm complex in Alberta and Saskatchewan has a history of producing tornadoes today. It is up here in western, I said Alberta, but I think it's in Saskatchewan. It is in this area near Cut Knife, I believe. Yeah, it's just south of Cut Knife and areas like Unity, Saskatchewan. So that storm still does have a tornado warning on it. Yeah, shear rate picks up on something in there, so there may be still some rotation. And actually, just based on the shear rate, it actually may be picked up just a little bit on that last scan. So heads up there around Unity, Saskatchewan. That is Provincial Highway 14, crossing Provincial Highway 21. Let's see, Red Deer, I think, is up. Yeah, Red Deer is behind all the storm action. There's some isolated showers and storms over the Calgary area, but oh, the Didsbury one. So those are the storms that produced some hail earlier too. Yeah, and still potentially one hailstorm in here near Strathmore. That's well east of Calgary. Another cell over Calgary, but less hail in there right now. Looks like near the Red Deer area should be clearing out for the evening. Potentially some other hailstorms also in western Saskatchewan. A couple pretty bright cores in there. But yeah, it'd be this little kind of tail end Charlie near Unity that that is the tornadic issue. Maybe less tornadic than it was earlier. Yeah, it looks like it has weakened just in the last half hour or so. It definitely has weakened. And then a pretty strong convective system also into western Saskatchewan. Turtleford up towards Meadow Lake, and now east of Lloydminster near Maidstone, Saskatchewan. That area is all under a severe thunderstorm warning by Environment Canada. So yeah, they have basically all of this is basically under a severe thunderstorm warning, and then this area here is under the tornado warning. Or not in Alberta yet. Not in Alberta anymore, more like that area. So they do have it all warned. I did see recently the Northern Tornadoes Project did confirmed a couple more tornadoes recently in Canada, and that socials link didn't never went. Let's see if one of my other commands work. Is it just the command that's not working, or is the whole thing? We'll take a look. All right. Anyway, so yeah, pretty nasty night in Saskatchewan. So this is interesting, as we kind of talked about a little bit ago. There was a potential that this storm continued working along the I-80 corridor and would have eventually ran into the rain-cooled air across central Iowa, or it could have taken a dive to the south. It does look like it's pushed a little bit more south as of late here. So this could continue to be a bit of a wind threat as it heads a little bit more southeast. Red Oak, Elliott, Corning, Creston, Bedford, some of those areas. in southwest Iowa. Let's see what model data supports. Let's see if model data picks up on this southern push. It does a little bit. Takes it more this way instead of towards the Des Moines area, so that does verify a little bit more. And then still some strong storms into areas like Lincoln through Nebraska City. Just to see what model data does here. Even though we really didn't get a convective system working out of the high plains, still does put more convection into Kansas City by tomorrow morning, into the overnight hours too. Just scattered storms, couple maybe feisty, but mostly I think it's going to be a heavy rain threat into the overnight hours. And then it'll be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow without the MCV that model data had earlier. That may bring down the severe threat a notch compared to earlier model data. But it'll be kind of TBD to see exactly what happens. There is also a severe risk tomorrow out in the mid-Atlantic again tomorrow afternoon. We didn't really touch on that earlier, but it does look like tomorrow about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the Eastern time zone. Could be getting a little bit more clusters of storms, kind of multi-cell clusters. Pretty typical in the Northeast. You get kind of these little multi-cell clusters. They have embedded pockets of damaging winds. And sometimes, like the model kind of indicates, sometimes you get a couple different rounds of them. Sometimes even 3 different rounds. Sometimes one kind of works through, then the next one, and then even a back edge one. So looks like it's going to be kind of one of those afternoons and evenings tomorrow. Keep an eye to the sky in the mid-Atlantic, and especially like the Chesapeake and the Potomac Valley, some of those areas, Northern Virginia, Maryland, Delmarva, into southeast portions of Pennsylvania. I'll see tomorrow we have a couple different, there's a couple chasers that pretty routinely stay out east. I'll see if we can get their streams tomorrow if they're going to be chasing. Back into Nebraska, still keep an eye on this storm. Hickman, Hallam, and Firth, Nebraska, south of Lincoln. That storm is a little less feisty than it looked earlier. And then I want to see if we've confirmed any more winds in this section of now just kind of gusty showers. This little pocket looks like it has a 60-mile-an-hour. Nope, that's from last night as well. Hold on, let me switch this. This area gets so many storms routinely at night after night that some of the same areas got severe weather last night. But yeah, okay. Haven't seen anything new besides that 59-mile-an-hour gust, and they have dropped that down to a 60-mile-an-hour wind, which I think is the accurate way of doing that. I was a little confused why we had a 70-mile-an-hour considerable threat. Wasn't really showing 70-mile-an-hour winds. Maybe a little bit a while ago, but that was even a while before the warning. So when the warning went off, it wasn't really showing 70-mile-an-hour winds anymore. And the outflow had already pushed through the radar site with some 60-mile-an-hour gusts. That outflow boundary, even though this storm continues to weaken, this outflow boundary may bring some gusty winds still across western portions of Kansas, Colby, Kansas, even over towards Oakley, Hoxie, Oberlin, without even a lot of storms around. So heads up there. No, you're good. The chat's quieted down a little bit, but I guess it's getting late, so people are just kind of enjoying the weather, listening and chilling before bed or something. If you're new here, like and subscribe. Click the bell icon. It really helps support the channel, helps give us life-saving information out to more people. It helps the algorithm send our message out and reach more people with the no hype, science-based weather communications. They have we mentioned this earlier too. They with the amount of storms that continues to basically scroll and stay over the West Bend area, they've added a flash flood warning. So that continues there. Inch to an inch and a half of rain already. It is going to start to reduce after this round of storms. But yeah, for the last like 2 or 3 hours, that area around West Bend has had kind of rounds of rain and storms just sitting over there. It is pushing out a little bit finally. Most of that has stayed pretty significantly just north of Milwaukee. Quite a fine line there across southeast portions of Wisconsin haven't had a lot. And then just north of there, a corridor of some heavier rain through a lot of the evening. I bet you are. If you got like a pop up that said we're live, then you probably are. Um, Even if you didn't click the bell icon, at least click the subscribe button, and that should let you know when we go live. It'll at least show up like in your subscription page. It won't give you like a full notification, but here's that camera at Colby. This is on I-70 in Kansas, and it actually is kind of shaking. It's a little bit dusty on the horizon. So this is that outflow boundary that's surging through the western portions of Kansas right now. And yeah, that's right there. These outflow boundaries are always interesting because they all show up as non-meteorological targets. They pick up bugs and dust and debris, and especially one like this in western Kansas, where there's no precip also, it's going to pick up a decent amount of dust on it. It usually will also show, yeah, shows up really sharply also on the spectrum width in here. Winona up to Colby, and then up along Kansas Highway 25 towards Atwood. Yeah, it's definitely pretty dusty there. This is well out ahead of those storms. Those storms are dying so quickly, they may not get to Colby. They've kind of held up. The closest storms to that camera are about 27 miles away or so. So yeah, it's a pretty significant surge in that outflow. So these storms continue to weaken in Iowa. They have dropped that warning, at least for now. There's definitely a potential that this could surge back out and get a new warning for some gusty winds. Griswold over towards Messina, Grant, Elliott, Red Oak down through Stanton, and then still some strong storms back through areas south and east of Omaha, Silver City down to Emerson, Plattsmouth, Murray, approaching Tabor. And then we have lost those warnings also Hallam, Hickman, Firth, Weeping Water, those areas. Still some stronger storms in south portions of Nebraska, Hebron over towards Fairbury, and Odell. Decent amount of lightning in those storms too. So as we talked about on just looking at the model data or just a few minutes ago, Storm Prediction Center does have a Mesoscale discussion out. Scattered storms will likely continue into the overnight hours. Portions of southeast Nebraska into northeast Kansas. Isolated large hail and severe winds are possible, but the threat should be limited. So it looks like right now the Storm Prediction Center not expecting a downstream severe weather watch. They'll likely keep the watch in place right now where those storms are, but not going to extend that out into northern parts of Kansas. If we had a big convective system that was all severe and working through this area, then they would look at, extending a new watch, but it doesn't look like it. We may get more storm development, but just not a lot of severe storms in that portion of Kansas. and then still seeing those storms dying down in western Kansas. Hey, Frontline, how's it going tonight? Let's check the Nashville area. We do have some friends in Nashville tonight. Good news is the storms have really diminished. Not any, and I don't see any more storms to the west of Nashville. It's going to work through. They've dropped most of those flash flood warnings, except for the one in Smith and Wilson counties. That was an area that still had a couple inches of rain. So continue to turn around, don't drown. It does take a while for some of that drainage to occur. So even though it stopped raining, some of those waters and creeks and streams are still filling up. Definitely going into the later parts of the overnight. Just take the long way home. And then here's those storms pushing through the Sheboygan, Wisconsin area. Lightning has definitely come down. I haven't seen as much lightning on that camera as we did earlier when it was coming through Fond du Lac. Also, pretty much visually looking like a non-severe thunderstorm. I don't see a lot of the tree movement that we would see. Not a lot of rain curtains of rain blowing across. So that storm definitely looks like it has diminished in intensity in parts of eastern Wisconsin. Still a couple of storms into central Arkansas. As soon as I say it, there's a big lightning flash, and a couple storms also in the southern Appalachians, even portions of northern Alabama up through the Smokies, and then into areas in southwest portions of Virginia tonight. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's been an interesting night of severe weather. Oh yeah, that makes sense too. And yeah, if this whole area is pretty saturated, the soil can't hold anymore. It's like a sponge that just has already soaked up everything it can. So that's going to lead to more runoff. Yeah, we're going to see I think tomorrow, we're going to see a bunch more flash flood warnings in this area, especially if we get those storms like the model data supported earlier. So model data will be a little different, and the severe outlook may be a little different than what we looked at earlier because when we looked at a lot of the model data earlier on the stream, it was still supporting a convective system working out of Wisconsin, or not Wisconsin, out of Wyoming and Colorado. That hasn't really occurred, so we don't really have an MCV out here that's a remnant. We'll see how organized these storms stay. But without a little MCV that kind of works across the I-70 corridor, that's kind of a little tiny low pressure, a little remnant low from those convective systems. They can work east and work across the continent long after the convective system dies out. Well, without that, they may change a little bit of the storm activity for tomorrow in this area. So we'll have to see. It may be a little bit more of a conditional risk. They do have the slight risk still, but the next outlook for the Storm Prediction Center doesn't come out till about 1 o'clock. So we'll see if they make any changes on that outlook. This is different than earlier today too. They did actually add a slight risk for that mid-Atlantic region, so we will have to watch storms tomorrow and keep an eye on that. And then we have a big area of slight risk again across the high plains tomorrow. A little bit further into the southern plains, even into portions of northwest portions of Oklahoma. So that may get a little severe. And then all the way up into the Dakotas. I'll have to check tomorrow. I wonder if the tornado dynamics are sticking around in Canada tomorrow, because it looks like this area pretty feisty for tornadoes earlier today. Okay, here's NATOcast. It's actually a pretty um, interesting program or data visualization that we have access to here. It does show, looks like a little bullseye into portions of Manitoba tomorrow. And then this is interesting. The NATOcast does pick up on some areas of a little bit heightened tornado probabilities into the Ozarks and into also basically the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. So we'll keep an eye on that. There also is a very sneaky tornado risk, it looks like, according to NATOcast, that shows up in the Chesapeake Bay area. So we'll keep an eye there too. Um, I'll have to do a little forecasting to see exactly what's going on in there and why NATOcast is picking up on that. Um, yeah, their earlier model data also kind of picked up on those same areas, so not a big change there. Interesting. Keep an eye on that one tomorrow. That NATOcast is not a National Weather Service and National Storm Prediction Center forecast. Tomorrow, actually, on the Storm Prediction Center forecast, they have added this. This is different than our outlook earlier. They did not have a tornado risk, although we mentioned that they should on my forecast video earlier this morning. But they have added a 2% tornado risk across portions of Missouri, the Ozarks, and into southern portions of Illinois tomorrow. That's the only one, so that is different than the NATOcast, which again is not an official product. But it pegs that area pretty good, so that's an interesting feature for sure. Change the color there. Yeah, it pegs that area pretty good. NATOcast has some differences compared to the Storm Prediction Center anyway. We'll see if we get any adjustments from the Storm Prediction Center if they add any new tornado risks. Has anything else changed? Again, the big change will come at day 2, or the day 1 at 1 o'clock, but not much else has changed. Wind stays the same. And hail has maybe uptrended just a little bit here. Some larger hail across North Dakota tomorrow, potentially. And they have, I think, extended a little bit of hail risk back into the Ohio Valley. So potentially a little bit of signs we may get a little more supercellular development if they're expecting potentially a low chance of tornadoes and a low chance of hail. That just, to me, without doing much forecasting, says there's a difference in storm mode that they may be expecting compared to earlier when it was going to be almost all linear mode. All right. Well, without any severe weather ongoing, a couple flash flood warnings, storms generally on the weakening trend, and it now does look like a broadcast tomorrow that could get pretty lengthy from late afternoon tomorrow. May start out east with the eastern threat, and then we'll see if storms fire across the Ozarks tomorrow. We might get this. It's going to be kind of like a little bit of a fireworks show. We're going to get probably storms firing severe first out east, and then we'll look at 4 or 5 o'clock storms to fire here in the Ozarks and into the Mississippi Valley. And then later into the evening, you get storms firing across the Front Range and the High Plains. That's what I would guess what will happen tomorrow. And as each one of those kind of areas fire, we'll still probably be dealing with the severe weather in the previous areas of severe risk. So that appears like it's going to be the plan of action tomorrow. Yeah, this did not really verify that much, but that is expected. It's more of a conditional risk when we have these high plains risk areas in the summertime. It all depends if you actually get convective systems. We've had a couple tornadoes and it looks like a couple 70-mile-an-hour wind reports. Those were actually all outside of the enhanced risk. This one was a land spout. Yeah, video of a land spout. So yeah, enhanced risk didn't quite verify, but that's not really a Storm Prediction Center issue. That's just the nature of these kind of mesoscale days, and also of the Front Range and lee side cyclogenesis. the lee side troughing that you get storm development on in the summertime along the Front Range. So the rest of the risk area looks like did verify pretty solidly. We have had severe weather across the slight risk area, southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, a little bit of Kansas, and also up into areas like Gillette, Wyoming. So it looks like the rest of the risk area, the stuff that wasn't as conditional did verify. So a good forecast by the Storm Prediction Center, as usual. They do a pretty good job with that. I think they also verified pretty well also in that small marginal risk area out in the Carolinas this afternoon. So, yeah, we'll see. Tomorrow looks like another day where we have to deal with some severe weather, and we'll see what happens with any trends over the overnight and into the early morning. Let's see. Tennessee looked better. Um, Tennessee definitely drying out, some showers across the Smokies. One's flash flood warning still east of Nashville, but low chance of a shower overnight. Otherwise, we'll look for storms tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon and into the evening. Should get more storms. That's why this flood watch goes until Saturday. I think we saw, right? Yeah, Thursday afternoon through Saturday afternoon, up to 3 to 4 inches of additional rainfall expected through the weekend. And yeah, as someone else said in the chat, soils are saturated from past rain events. So the soil is just not going to take any more moisture. That just all runs off into the creeks and streams and gullies and hollers and all that kinds of stuff with the terrain changes in Kentucky and Tennessee. So yeah, please watch for flash flooding in the overnight hours and into the early morning hours and anytime, but it's flash flooding is especially more dangerous overnight. Let's see. All right, yeah, without any other major issues right now, I think we're going to wrap it up, reset for tomorrow, and it looks like we'll be back on sometime probably late afternoon tomorrow. Certainly by about 4 or 5, but if storms go up earlier, maybe more like 3 to 4 to cover some of those East Coast storms. Thanks again, everyone. I appreciate you guys all. If you're new here, like and subscribe. Click the bell icon, get notified when we go live. I saw some stats the other day. I think about 10 to 15% of our viewers subscribe, so which is actually pretty common across YouTube. But if you made it this far, probably want to subscribe. And also subscribing and liking definitely helps send our message out to more people. Life-saving, science-based weather communications. Trying to do it the right way with no clickbaits and just a respectful tone, professional tone, no hype weather coverage. But thanks everyone. Thanks for some of the super chats. That definitely helps. That'll go back to the channel, and as we continue to upgrade stuff. And yeah, let me see. A couple chasers I know do tend to stay out east, so I might try and see if we can borrow some of their streams tomorrow if we do get some East Coast storms. And otherwise, we'll be back here likely tomorrow afternoon, and see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.